Sorry, fellas. Whoa, too loud. The hell? Dude. Okay, I think we're squared away. Looks like we're squared away, finally. Pain in the arse. Is that too loud? And I think I was listening to something earlier in my headphones and put it up loud. Anyway, uh, man, this Jason Arday stuff is it's ridiculous. Like, it's becoming outright farcical. Like, farcical. These people, and it's weird because it seems to be, it's like kind of doesn't seem to want to die, the news stream or the news story. And it's kind of crazy how, just a week or two ago, this guy was alive. This story was still going on, but he was alive. And he killed himself. Some of these people are going with the tact that it was because the pressure and the shame and people attacking him and wolves picking his carcass clean or whatever. But it's like, actually, no, that's not Like, that's not what killed this guy. The people that's what these institutions are supposed to do. This guy found himself on the I mean, and it's unfortunate because obviously the guy has had problems, obviously. But it's not the people who uncovered the fraud, it's the people that covered up the fraud. It's the people that this guy, that hired this guy, or when they first met this guy, they think, "Oh wow, this guy is a perfect DEI patsy. He's perfect. He's, you know, he smiles, he has all kinds of stories, uh but a guy that could be taken advantage of. That's the sick liberal white people in at Cambridge that used him like I mean they were using him for their own benefit, political benefit. That's why this guy's dead. In Cambridge, they even went out of their way. I mean, he killed himself, so it's his fault ultimately. But they even like even after they found out that he was a fraud, they still tried to cover up for him a little bit. I mean, I mean, England, they're just like us. They're in a mess with their institutions, but you can just you look at their academia, intelligentsia, and the media, which are basically one and the same. But they are so rotten. You know what I mean? Truly, these are rotten to the core institutions, which is a shame because Cambridge and Oxford, they're like the best colleges in the world. But they were. But they're rotten. Cambridge hires this guy to use him as a token, you know, to to make their college, their department look more politically uh uh more politically uh set. They're more politically involved or more right, politically uh, ideologically sound. I mean they're all tripping over themselves to try and, get DEI candidates in all kinds of places. And that's what they use this. They were using this guy and turns out the guy was lying and it made them look bad. But they still tried to protect the guy. Tried to shut up the media. And so, I mean, it's and this is what I was kind of alluding to last night. Like some of these institutions, I don't think there's anything left to salvage. I think the husks aren't even there. I think the husks themselves are gone. And I'm like, that's kind of getting to that point. Like with the West, it's like, dude, if an institution is mostly rotten, I'm starting to think, you know what? We're on the cusp of new technology. The world's fixing to change. Bro, let's just scrap all that crap. Get rid of it all, bro, and start anew. We got to start anew with dating and with this and with that and with blah blah blah. Bro, let's not do it piecemeal. Let's just get in there, Javier Milei style, with a steel chain, a chainsaw, and just take a chainsaw to some of these garbage institutions. Dude, they are rotten to the core. If the left are termites, dude, these institutions, they're not made of wood anymore. They're made of termite poop and termites. Bro, let's just scrap the whole dang things, man. As far as I'm concerned. Really, I think we should humiliate them, strip them of a livelihood, and cast them out into the oblivion. Shoot, exile them if we could. That would be legit.
You may lose every...
I had a couple of things up here.
Maths. You'd be going in there.
Today of all days is very much a day for white people to listen.
Bro,
and not
done
to
with
speak.
that. I don't want to.
Really? Another one, eh? And so soon after the last. What have we done?
Let somebody say that to me. Let somebody say that to me. I most likely it will end up violent. Bro, I'm not like when that person saying that, they're saying they're treating us in a way they would never treat a black person, just outright nakedly racist, which it's whatever, but it's like, bro, I'm not going to let you disrespect me right in front of all these people. You say something like that to me and you're going to answer for it right then and there. Seriously, I'm done with this stuff, man. We need to bring back dueling. You know, I don't think we're too good for that. I think maybe it's a good idea.
This time, eh?
Who's Daniel Boland?
Me today. Look, I'm going to try my best to keep this as dignified and gracious as possible, especially when talking about Jason Arday. Now, joking aside for 1 second, a young man has died, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing funny about this. It's a tragedy. It's a 41-year-old father, husband, brother, son, friend, I guess, to many, has taken his own life. And there's nothing to say other than, and I mean this, rest in peace, condolences to the family.
Right.
For what it's worth.
Bro, it's sad that we're in a day and age where, you know, you got to start off like that. Not because of him or because the right or anything. No, it's because the left. Because all these nutbags, dude, they don't even like put on a face or a facade. There's no charade with Charlie Kirk. It's just like, man, the decency, it's gone, man. It's just non-existent today. It's demoralizing to say the least. Certainly.
But what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to pretend, I'm not going to stand here and be lectured to by these fuckwits.
Because we knew Jason was suffering. We knew that he felt hounded by those rabid wolves.
Bro.
Jason.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Mainstream media, the news outlets.
Bro, what are these people smoking? You know what I mean? Like, that's in Britain, bro. Like, how? They're behaving as though, it's like the antebellum South 30 years ago there or something. It's absurd, to say the least.
The most shocking part of the
Yeah, Tucker just dropped this a little bit ago. I kind of wanted to see what it was about.
Story of the USS Liberty, the American ship bombed by the Israeli government back during the Six-Day War in 1967, is not simply the facts of the case. 34 Americans murdered by the Israelis, 171 wounded, bombed, strafe with machine gun fire, etc. That's a tragedy and it's shocking. But the most shocking part of the story is that the U.S. government, beginning with the then president, Lyndon Johnson, covered it up.
What's up, party bots?
Prevented the survivors from talking about it, prevented the public from knowing that it even happened. That's ongoing, by the way. American officials still refuse to talk about what happened to the USS Liberty, by and large, with some exceptions. So that's the part of the story that really makes you wonder what is going on here. It's one thing for a foreign country, foreign government to murder your citizens. That does happen. But the idea that your own government would take the side of the foreign nation as it murders your people, the people your government is in charge of caring for, that is really stunning. And you have to ask why. Well, in some cases, of course, just a product of evil intent. There are bad people in positions of power. But for the most part, it's not active evil, it's passive evil. It's the result of moral cowardice. It's more painful to take the side of your own people than it is the side of a foreign government. Therefore, you take the side of a foreign government. That's just the truth about the way most people are, unfortunately. So as you think about that, you think about the depth of the betrayal involved in the aftermath of the USS Liberty murders.
Yeah, it's
You think, well, that couldn't possibly happen now. Well, in fact, it is happening now. Right now, more than a dozen American citizens have been murdered in pogroms in the occupied territories that Israel controls, the West Bank. And they've been murdered by Israelis, mostly Israeli settlers, the ones conducting these pogroms, armed by the U.S. government, carrying American rifles. And if you think the term pogrom is too strong, you don't know the details of what's happening there.
I was reading something about the Crusades earlier today, and before the noblemen, like when the kings went to the Holy Land, there was like a peasant crusade where before any of the kings or noblemen had pledged to go, all these peasants like gathered in one place in France, and like 100,000 of them. They didn't have any money or weapons, and then they just started marching across Europe. Well, they ended up pit stopping at every city on the way there and conducting a pogrom and basically snatching all the Jays out of their bed, like across Europe, and just hit city after city. I guess they had the religious fervor and just went ham, dude. Good on them. Good on them.
Israeli settlers, many of them American citizens, carrying American weapons, murdering the local population, Palestinians, some of whom, more than a dozen of whom, have been American. And by the way, who are prohibited from defending themselves. They cannot carry weapons, of course. Palestinians can't carry weapons on their own land, but Israeli settlers who seek to steal that land can.
It's pretty crazy.
So these pogroms have been ongoing, of course, but most Americans have no idea that American citizens have been murdered during the course of them. And they have no idea because the media, by and large, don't report it. And American officials have no interest in talking about it. So we want to bring you a very specific story of a young American man, and by American, we mean literally American, born in the United States, worked at his family's ice cream shop in Tampa, who was murdered last summer in July of 2025 in the West Bank. He was murdered attempting to go to land that his family owns, has a deed to, not owns in some conceptual sense, but literally owns. And he was killed by settlers, none of whom have ever been punished for that crime. And under normal circumstances, we would give long monologue about why this is bad. Of course, it's self-evidently bad and what it means. But we've just conducted two of the most extraordinary interviews we've done in a long time. One with the father of the boy who was murdered, and another with an American journalist who works for a Catholic publication, who was effectively prevented from talking about this entire topic, who was censored on behalf of the Israeli government in the United States. So these two interviews answer at least two questions. The first is, what is happening? You may not know the details. With your money in your name to your fellow citizens in a foreign land. And the second is, why haven't you heard about this? Why is there effectively a media blackout on the details? Not a total media blackout. In fact, we're about to play you a clip from CNN, which to their credit they did, about the murder last summer of the boy from Florida. But by and large, the American media do not report on the details of these crimes, of these pogroms. Why is that? And the second interview with the editor, former editor from this Catholic publication, gives you a sense of just how the news coverage is shut down at the level of the news organization, what the censorship looks like within the newsroom. And so we want to frame the first interview we're about to bring you with that clip we just mentioned from CNN, which has video in it that you may not have seen, but this is something worth watching. So what you're about to see is video of the father, accompanied by a news crew, attempting to go to the place where his son was beaten to death during these pogroms. Watch.
Kamil Muslit hasn't been able to reach this land in over a year. This is the hillside where his son, Saif, an American citizen, was killed.
Looks like it's down here if you want to walk. Yeah.
Beaten to death by Israeli settlers exactly 1 year ago. Since then, settlers have illegally occupied the area, preventing this father from getting the closure he so desperately seeks.
We have to keep an eye because usually they'll come down that way.
But this solemn, sacred moment won't last. Within seconds, we spot a car speeding towards us. We start to leave, but as we drive away, we see that 4 settlers have set up a roadblock. Armed with clubs and rocks, they try and block our way. First with their bodies, and then...
And now it looks like he's trying to slash our tires. He's trying to slash our tires.
Oh, he's got a knife. He's going for the tires.
Bro, these people, and these old world people from like, they're like animalistic, man. They don't operate by the same rules we do.
A group of independent journalists and activists are in the car behind us.
Move, bitch.
But their vehicle isn't armored. But the settlers aren't done. More arrive, blocking another road before chasing us and attacking us again.
No, they're trying to stop our car again.
Wow.
They're hitting us.
They are really not letting it go. They're not letting
We
them
finally
go.
make it back to safety, where I get on the phone with the Israeli military, which was responsible for security in this area. But settlers have also called the military, and
Wow.
these soldiers
Wow.
are only interested in harassing us, refusing to take action against the
They're
settlers.
only going to help the settlers.
That
of
man,
course.
as you just saw, is called Kamil Muslit.
Of course.
He runs an ice cream shop and a smash burger store in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, wow.
And we're about to
No way.
bring you our interview with him. And we're not going to say a lot more because nothing we could say would be half as affecting or informative as what you're about to hear him say. But we just add one thing. You will hear him describe his efforts to get the attention of his own U.S. Senator, Rick Scott of Florida. Now, keep in mind, Kamil Muslit is from Florida. He grew up in Clewiston, Florida, right near Lake Okeechobee. He's not some foreigner. He's an American citizen, and has always been. His family, his parents were American citizens. And of course, his son, now gone, was an American citizen too. Rick Scott is the Republican senator who represents him. And yet Rick Scott has refused to meet with him. Rick Scott is always welcome on this show to explain why. Consider this an official invitation to Senator Scott.
Heel.
But keep in mind as you listen to this, that his representative in the United States Senate, Rick Scott, has refused to meet with him or do anything to affect justice in this case. The killers of his son remain unpunished. So with that, here's...
It's almost on every front, every different distinction of how our politicians are supposed to represent us. And every single one, like every last one, it's like they're intentionally, deliberately not representing us and representing somebody else with everything. Like when people say, oh, they hate you, bro, they really, really do. It's like there is something going on, and we just aren't privy to the, it's a need to know thing, but there's definitely some rule or some idea or plan going on, and we're like, it's like one variable and we're just not in the loop. We're not in the loop, man. And it's mind-boggling. It's like, why? Why are all like, why are they not doing these things? I think it's personal. I really do. I'm beyond the incompetence thing. I don't, it's not incompetence. It's purposeful. They know what they're doing. Mike Huckabee, the guy works, he's like an Israel politician. You know, Ted Cruz, like all of them. At this point, it's like, I feel like it's a game for them now. And they're just trying to see how little they can represent us until, and then when we finally speak up. It's just like a kick to the nuts. Every week, a fresh kick to the stones, man. I don't get it.
Our interview with Kamal Moussalet. Kamal Moussalet, thank you so much for joining us. So I'm hoping you'll tell us the story of your son, and I just want to be clear for people watching that he was an American, not simply a green card holder or even a citizen, but a birthright American born in Florida, fully American. And he was murdered in the occupied territories by settlers. So tell us who he was and what happened, if you would.
Saifullah Moussalet, my son. My name is Kamal Moussalet. Saifullah Moussalet was born in Port Charlotte, Florida. He was working at an ice cream shop in Tampa, Florida. And me and him, built it together, and we opened it up, and he was serving ice cream to kids. That was his job description.
That almost seems comical. Like, I can't be right. But that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like a young man that has an ice cream. It just seems weird.
In the summer of 2025, July, he was in West Bank, Palestine. He wanted to visit his family. He wanted to visit. My wife was there at that time, and his siblings were there. And honestly, he wanted actually to hopefully find a potential wife. He wanted to get engaged, and he said, maybe I can find my spouse there. And so I told him, I was debating because business was booming, the ice cream shop was doing well, but he convinced me that let me go there for now. I told him, okay, but what we'll do is that we'll kind of switch places. I'll go take care of the ice cream shop while you go there. We spent some time together. We spent our holiday, the Eid, and we attended my nephew's wedding, which is his cousin. And I came back to the States. I left him there. So Israeli settlers, since April of 2025, they've been basically.
So what, you brought this like half literate idiot on here to just kind of babble and stumble his way through, Tucker? What's up with that, dude? You don't think you could have just got a quick, monologue clip of him? You had to bring him on and so we can listen to this guy trip over his words? What's up, man? What's up with this? Seriously, though. It's kind of, it's obnoxious if you want to know the truth. I mean, just being honest. I need to come out with things when I feel that way.
About renewables is expensive, which they are.
It's weird. I've never hated Michael Schellenberger, but I guess I was indifferent to him or didn't know about him at one point. But I actually think I like Michael Schellenberger. I actually think he's a decent person, like a decent human being. Wife and kids. He's not some crazy political activist. He cares about, I would say he's probably, center left or center right, like right there. But he's comes from the left, so he's still into giving back and trying to help people that need help. But he's not radical, and he's not trying to push, like, he likes capitalism, he likes America. I really find that refreshing. Like, so refreshing. That I can agree with the guy on just like on so much common sense, but also, you know, giving back, contributing to our communities. I think that's a good thing.
But if you think renewables are good and are saving nature, then you kind of go, well, then we should pay a little bit more for it. Or even with the COVID vaccine, people say, oh, Pfizer made all this money, blah blah blah. Yeah, but if you think the vaccine was good, then I think the money that most of us would be like, wow, we want people to profit when they're delivering a good product.
Yeah.
In my experience, particularly when you're talking to people that are on the fence or on the left, you really have to start with the harm it causes, and to really break through that really hard ideology of I'm a moral person because I support trans kids or whatever. You have to be like, what about this kid? Like, it has to be really specific. It has to penetrate their little dream world and the bubble that they're in. And I think it has to be repetitive. You have to keep doing it. I think when you kind of go, there's these other parts of it that were bad as well. That can come later. But if you think that doing these things to children is good, then I think the fact that there was, medical fraud involved just doesn't have the same impact.
Let's take a quick break. We're going to be back with more Michael Schellenberger in just a moment. We're going to cover Hunter Biden, Eric Swalwell, and top their moms. In fact, this year alone, more than 8.
See what they were talking about. And I don't really get you don't see Michael. He writes on Substacks. I kind of like whenever you see him, it's because he has something new to talk about, and I like that.
At devilmaycaremedia.com. Every Friday, as always, I record those Thursday afternoon/evening. So get your questions in before then, and they will be featured on this Friday's little Q&A conversation we have back and forth. But first, more feeling uncomfortable,
Real though, good Lord.
By about 12 points as the count stands right now. Donald Trump wrote, Vindman is, of course, a familiar name to many people. He said, the most gratifying loss last night was that of a real treasonous creep, Alexander Vindman, to a radical left lunatic who can't speak or think properly and who will go down to certain defeat at the hands of Ashley Moody. He goes on to say, Vindman, if you remember, was the one who lied about my perfect call with President Zelensky of Ukraine, only to find out that the conversation was routinely recorded and proved that I was 100%.
He's such a whack job now. It's wild, honestly.
In the right, completely innocent. It was indeed a perfect call, and Democrats' fake impeachment effort massively failed. Okay. Michael, this is an interesting point, actually, because Vindman, to me, represents the failed resistance against Trump. That really his first midterm cycle, yes, it was a blue tsunami, but it set the stage for Trump's comeback. After he lost in 2020, Democrats kept hitting him with lawfare, started really with the Vindman impeachment, obviously, which was before that. But this was the tactic to try to swamp him in lawfare and take him down.
Yeah.
Angie Nixon comes out of absolutely nowhere. She's a state representative, blows him out of the water by spending $0 on TV. He was one of the top Act Blue fundraisers throughout this cycle. It looks to me like the resistance has been eclipsed by the DSA now.
Yeah, I mean, there is a way in which this particular race feels like a bookend to all the Russiagate stuff, doesn't it? Where you had seen that the Democrats were moving away from the framing of Trump as a treasonous, Putin-controlled person. I think there's some
This is a total joke.
Recognition that really had already played itself out by the end of 2024, but this has got to be the last gasp of it. It is satisfying for a lot of different reasons, this victory by this DSA person, even if you don't agree with her. Because in part, we hear so much about how money in politics determines everything. The system's corrupted. I just listened to Darren Acemoglu, who's got an MIT economist, got a new book out lamenting all the money in politics, how we have to do something about it, which is never going to happen because the Supreme Court has says.
By the way, except for on YouTube, I'm streaming vertical now too. That's why Instagram is up in the corner, but Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. But Twitch and YouTube, I don't know, for some reason I didn't get it set up right for tonight. But so, I mean, just trying to cover more bases, as it were.
Treats money in politics like free speech. So it's absurd, but this just shows that money can't buy you, can't improve on a bad candidate. I mean, to be fair, he was a bad candidate, bad message, and then pride cometh before a fall. So I think another case where the hubris, and voters sense that. Voters sense it when their vote is being taken for granted. And we do, as Americans, I think one of our qualities is to really side with the underdog as kind of a rule. And even if we, are like sort of.
That for sure. For sure. That's an American quality, the underdog, big time.
Neutrals, or maybe even don't like the person. There's something admirable in that kind of comeback. So I think voters wanted to be a part of that, and they didn't want to have much to do with Vindman.
It does reveal the disconnect between Democratic establishment donors and what's actually happening on the ground. The fact that so many people poured money into this race and he got blown resoundingly out of the water. Let's take a listen here to a little bit from Mark Caputo, great Florida reporter on CNN just last night after it became clear Vindman was going to lose.
Colonel Alex Vindman did outraise and outspend Angie Nixon and also Senator Ashley Moody, and he lost. What does that tell you?
He was a terrible candidate. It's difficult for me to put that in words. In some of our conference calls at Axios, I would just start to rant about it. Like I was almost offended by his just inability to campaign properly. I don't really know where that money was spent, because you didn't really see him on television. You didn't really see him in the community. You didn't see him in mailers. You didn't see him in text messages. There was no presence of. He has no real roots here. He's essentially sort of carpetbagged here. I didn't even know the guy lived in the state. I thought, like his brothers in Congress, he lived in Virginia.
Meanwhile,
didn't he move there?
Yes, he did. That's exactly what happened, and thought he didn't have to go to these conversations, could just spend his way. And to your point, they just showed she spent less than $1 million. Less than $1 million. He spent, I think they just showed $9 million. $9 million. He raised $16 million, presumably from a lot of deep-pocketed donors. That's a crisis for the Democratic Party establishment, who now is facing a Democratic socialist running against Ashley Moody in this seat, which, yes, Florida is red, but the conditions for swing states, again, I don't think Florida is particularly a swing state at this point, but the conditions are really ripe for Democrats to have surprise upsets this cycle. So meanwhile, the Republican who won the the former Republican who won the Democratic gubernatorial primary, David Jolly, who was working in Republican politics since the 90s, kind of became a resistance figure himself. He won. He's going to go up against Byron Donald. He's already trying to distance himself from Angie Nixon, who, again, is a Democratic socialist. Let's take a listen to him on MS Now just last night.
Is this a state, Florida, that can elect you as governor, but also elect progressive Angie Nixon for the U.S. Senate at the same time?
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. Look, I reject the DSA. I reject socialism. I'm a capitalist, and I think capitalism provides the greatest amount of economic mobility. I have been with Angie on the trail, and I'll tell you this, she's a fighter. She leaves it all on the field. She goes in every room talking about what I talk about. Can we improve your access to housing, affordable housing, to health care? Do you know where to educate your kids? What is it that government can do where the private sector is unable to improve your life? Angie's out there fighting for those same values. I think she and I have a very different approach to this. But look, I reject socialism. I'm a capitalist. We'll see how Florida's voters sort that out.
Okay, Michael, I was really excited to talk to you about this because you also recently interviewed Evan Barker, who we're trying to get on the show. She has a new book out about her experience fundraising in Democratic politics. And you posted on X, yes, DSA has a good ground game, but the reason it keeps winning is that voters rejected open borders, DEI, trans, etc., which the party establishment embraced to avoid economic populism. And you had a whole conversation with Evan about some of this that folks can go check out. But that is actually kind of a fascinating part of this dynamic in Florida, because Angie Nixon is talking like an economic populist, but Democratic.
Well, see, this is the thing. Both parties they're good cop, bad copping us. That's what they're doing. They've been good cop, bad copping us since I can remember, since the 90s. They're not giving us a damn thing. And they think that they can just play us off against each side every election. Okay, it's our turn to lose this year. All right, guys, fair play. Good luck, fellas. Good luck, Democrats. We'll see y'all later. Yeah. And people are done with it. And if you give them, the turd sandwich and the giant douche choice, they'll vote for a communist before that. They'll vote for a national. They'll vote for anybody but these two farcical parties that are, it's a joke. It's a joke. And they say, like in that Cuban video yesterday we were watching where the guy was pressing the DSA people, the socialists, about Castro in Cuba. Yeah, well, I mean, he was questioning him about that, and I forgot what fucking. I forget. I'm sure it'll pop back in my head any second.
Socialists still have the woke one policies on open borders and trans issues.
Yeah, I think this is so interesting. I didn't really all click for me until I talked to Evan, who's this former Democrat.
Yeah, it's just they're offering something better. Like the choice, as regular people see it, is getting kicked in the nuts by the Democrats or the Republicans. Either or, it doesn't make a difference. Or giving a smaller party a chance or somebody else a chance and maybe possibly getting one or two things that they want done politically. And people, and see, I feel like the establishment, they're not aware of this. They think that everything's all copacetic, status quo, and we're just gonna, like a bunch of suckers, we're just gonna vote for Democrats this time, and it's the Republicans' turn to be the opposition. And they've gotten so comfortable, these two parties. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. Like when they were pressing about Cuba, and they were saying, they were waffling and trying to dance around it, and then the Mexican guy says, well, they cannot vote their leaders out because there isn't another party to vote for. So they don't have democracy. Bro, it's the same thing here. It's the same thing here. They have one party. They have a right side of it and a left side of it. They draw a line, an artificial line down the center of it, tell half of them to get on one side of the room and the other half to get on the other side of the room. Bro, no matter who you vote for, you get the same policies. People have had enough of it. And if they're not going to give way, if they are not going to come up off this position of their negotiating position, there's no, opening proposition. It's, we're not giving you squat. Go drown yourself. Like, seriously. And they won't come up off that. They won't give us anything. We get wars. We get more taxes. We get asset stripping. We get higher home prices. Every one of our institutions, they keep driving them into the ground, destroying them, or turning them over to some douchebag and his coding buddies to start some $1 trillion company with. Like, bro, what is up with the dating apps? Who decided, like between people, there's a lot of favors that happen between men and women, a lot of reciprocal favors that have always happened, a lot of people reciprocating labor and effort for each other, a lot of labor that would normally cost money. Bro, we've had capitalists salivating for hundreds of years. Oh, God, just let us in there so we can commodify that dating market. Just let us Let us get it in. Spread those cheeks. Like, and now they make money, a dividend every time somebody matches with somebody else. Who decided that this was acceptable? Bro, we can't date without some billion-dollar company gouging our eyeballs out for the privilege. For the privilege. Basically, our government has, like, separated us from the people we spend our money with, made a gap for techno-feudalist entrepreneurs and coders to slide in there and take their cut. Bro, they have destroyed our dating market and everything about reproduction and dating and marriage. Dude, OnlyFans, they talked half of our women into going and putting a price tag on their favors. Putting a price tag on everything about women so that OnlyFans and the government can get their cut. We can't have people doing normal relationships. We don't get our cut. You know, there's too much free shit flowing around. We don't get to tax it. That's a problem. That's a problem. We need to, we've got to disrupt this and, you know, get some AI company involved or so. It's downright evil. It's demoralizing. And it's obvious, man. You know, they talk when it's like there's a lot of free labor that goes on between men and women. You know, men fixing cars, like women doing this, men doing that. And they figured out, hey, if we can get in between that, we can make a hell of a lot of money off of people living their lives, dating. And like, it's crazy, man. And like, I'm pretty sure COVID was totally done so they could set these things into motion. You know, that once they're going, they're going. But like, think about it though. OnlyFans. That's women being an AI chatbot and you know, putting out content with a price tag on it. OnlyFans gets their cut, the government gets their cut. So when a guy needs attention from a woman, the government hears a cha-ching, cha-ching. Every time a guy, you know, needs something from a woman or a woman needs something from a guy, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Bro, this is a problem, dude. We're being freaking sucked. The blood is being sucked out of us. You can't do anything without some company sticking their hand out and saying, that'll be $5, please. Same thing with the dating apps. And it's to the point now where these dating apps, they're like going belly up. They're going belly up. It's a scam. Men aren't doing it anymore. They're just like, no, I'm good. I'm good. They're walking away because, so they have trashed our whole society, basically, in the pursuit of commodifying it and commodifying our lives. And now, you know, now they've screwed it all up. They've messed everything up. They've changed now it's like, we don't even know where we're at now. But like, I can't believe that this was allowed to happen. You know, and these companies promise, oh, we'll make dating easier and better. Well, they did the opposite. They made everybody bitter, tired, burnt out. They made men and women like at each other's throats. And nobody goes outside of their house anymore. You know, they don't meet in real life because they have dating apps. But at the same time, people are done with the dating apps. So now we have people just straight up not trying. I mean, I'm not trying at all. So they didn't fulfill their promise. They pocketed, a boatload of cash and destroyed our entire reproductive system, like our infrastructure and institutions. And now we are like tits up. We don't know what the hell, we don't know what's going on. We don't know how to fix it. But these companies, they made out like highwaymen, like bandits. They made out like a barrel, a bunch of crooks. And OnlyFans, they're still milking it. They're still milking it. And like OnlyFans, that is truly despicable and evil. They convinced a good chunk of young women that only suckers, get married and do regular relationships. You can be free and still have all the money, by selling your the stuff that you would normally give to one guy for free, or you would. And what's crazy is those women, it's like what 1% of them actually makes any money. Almost none of them do. So our women have been sold an outright lie. Been basically convinced that everything's going to be okay. They can do whatever they want. Go crazy because they don't need a man. The women go crazy and then find out that it's not that simple. Bro, this is sick. It's sick, man. And like these people, it may very well end up that they destroyed our entire society. Like this, it could be the downfall. Could be the downfall. Legitimately. That and the pandemic, that could be the end of the West. It is a possibility. And these companies are still going, and people are, it's acceptable somehow. I don't know. My mind, it beggars the mind.
Like operative fundraiser who's written this tell-all memoir called Nothing Left. And what I finally clicked for me was that after 2018, which is of course the midterm cycle where AOC is elected, you have a kind of accommodation. I'm not going to say there was like a single meeting or something. There was a meeting between AOC and Pelosi, but more like an accommodation that sort of emerged organically within the party, that the establishment would embrace all the woke stuff, the stuff on race, on border, on trans, to the point where in a sloppy way, so that Kamala Harris just signs that ACLU thing saying she's going to do transgender surgeries for illegal migrants and prisoners. Sloppy in the sense of Biden just opening the border.
Yeah.
Sloppy in just the kind of over the top aggressive
More like
DEI
evil.
policies. But then they said, well, we're not going to do the economic populism. So the stuff that's and as Evan said,
the stuff that people actually wanted. No, they didn't do that. They were like, no, we just want to use the stuff that gives us moral virtue and will allow us to cancel people, destroy people, crush people, censor people. We like that. We like that. We want the political weaponry. We don't want the the populist legislation. We don't want to help the people. We want to keep them under the boot heel. But we would like these trinkets over here that will help us own the chuds. And that's what they did, man. Notice nobody got a damn thing. Nobody on the left got nothing. They got zilch. But boy, howdy, did they go hard in the paint on the DEI, the Black Lives Matter, the kente cloth down on one knee with the bro, these people, man. Bro, hell would be too good for these people. Truly. Hell would be a resort compared to what my mind, first goes to my thoughts of where Nancy Pelosi should be going.
Moderates and leftists in the party sort of both manifested their worst instincts, and that was the compromise. I mean, it was kind of the worst compromise. So they didn't have the stuff that they really are succeeding on: Medicare for all, affordability, high prices. They didn't do all that. They did all the stuff that everybody hates on the culture war stuff,
Yep.
and where Republicans have an advantage because swing voters tend to agree with the Republican base more on those issues. So that helped me to understand. But then you go through 2020, 2024, all the woke stuff proves a disaster. 2024, Trump's elected, and DSA quite skillfully is able to say, well, this was these because they were the establishment, they weren't strong enough on Gaza, they didn't emphasize our populist issues. Never sort of acknowledging that it was their woke agenda that they got, Biden and Harris and the establishment to embrace. That was the stuff that was most repudiated. So I think it's very, if I'm just trying to analyze it objectively, I don't if I'm trying to be a neutral or Machiavellian scientific approach to this. I think DSA is doing well. I think that they're actually
Totally.
they're threading these needles really well, so they're not actually deleting all their crazy stuff. I thought that AOC's effort to kind of reset with the woke one was
dumb.
Directionally right. I'm not sure she executed that exactly right, but it does seem like they're
going in the right direction, obviously, and the right, we're standing there with our thumb up our ass and a stupid looking grin to pass the time of day with. What the hell? Still throwing out these tired old lines like tax cuts for the rich, being tough on Iran and China. We're going to be tough on Iran, tough on Putin. Meanwhile, we're going to totally crap on you people, on you little people. We're totally going to make your lives even harder. We're going to see how how much you'll take before you snap. We want to see how much we can betray you, or how much it will take. How much betrayal will it take to get you to start considering euthanasia or something like?
Trying to do a thing that I saw her do very early when she went on Colbert in late 2028, when he was like, "Aren't you a communist? Aren't you a socialist?" And she was like, "Let me tell you what democratic socialist means to me. It means basically working hard, playing by the rules, having health care." I mean, it's basically Bill Clinton.
See, that sort of scares me, because it's like, well, then, because what they're talking about, it's like, yo, everybody, we don't have a capitalist country or system. It's like we already have a socialist system, basically. It's like, but it's a dirty word. Nobody can say it out loud. But that's what we already have. And it's like, what they're talking about is totally palatable for people on the right, pretty much even. And it's like, so why the distinction? Why must you call what the DSA? Why don't you just come out as like, yeah, we're not them. You don't have to be socialists. Just say you're not them. You know what I mean? Because the socialists, when they say that, it's like they're trying to be subversive, transgressive. And it's like they're sending the message, hey, we are going to break stuff. We're going to move fast. We're going to break stuff. We're going to hurt white people. That's what I gather from that. We're going to hurt white people.
Circa mid-90s, and just completely reframing it.
We're going to hurt you rich, fat cat, white people. It's like, bro, we're not even the top earning demographic in this nation. Literally. We are not even the top. And it's crazy. We're like middle of the road when it comes to, basically with everything, we're middle of the road. Intelligence, IQ. Asians are higher than, but it's like that middle of the road gives us we have an advantage, honestly. But we're constantly treated as though, we're like head and shoulders above everybody else, and we're just pooping on these people, teabagging them with our success and our IQ. And so it's like, come on, bro.
So that it seems much more mainstream stuff that like I'm like, okay, yeah, I'd like for people to have good health care. So I think the DSA has behaved in a very deft way and left the establishment sort of holding the bag for those 2024 losses.
I totally agree with
Crap.
that. And I wonder, I mean, I think maybe the most interesting is within the ranks of the DSA, the fight between the people who are like materialist Marxists and people who are truly like postmodern Marcusean or Foucaultian folks who combine what I think is actually fair to describe as cultural Marxism. I know people in the DSA world like laugh at that term, but what it does is create a hierarchy of people who are victimized not just by capitalism but by imperialism, and more than anything really by racism, which they tie to imperialism and capitalism. But it creates that actual like intersectional hierarchy directly, and those are a lot of people that are within the DSA right now. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez herself, I think, is pulled in both of those directions. I don't think she fully understands which direction she should go in or she does believe in. I honestly don't think she understands that. She went on the Fighting Oligarchy tour with Bernie Sanders, drew massive crowds, some in red states out in the Mountain West, and they were basically prioritizing the first basket, the economic populism, and leaving out the cultural progressivism. So she's learning.
You know, I almost get this feeling from what's going on, like how the Democrats are getting left behind, the Republic. I feel like the Republicans and the Democrats, they know something that they're privy to information we aren't. And it's like they're not even worried about AOC. I want to say, like, bro, what do they know that we don't? They are playing the game like there's no future. You know what I mean? They're playing the game as if this is the last round that we will ever play. You know, like that's I get that feeling. Like the Republicans are like, yeah, do your thing, AOC. There's not going to be an election next time. Or like, that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's the feeling I get. Like they don't really care. They don't seem worried. You know, it's like they've accomplished whatever, like whatever they've been working on. It's too late to change it now. So they don't really care anymore. They're not worried about losing anymore. That's how it comes off to me.
But at the end of the day, I think a lot of these guys believe in ideas, not just on the economic issues, but on the cultural issues that sound to me just like woke one. I mean, Abdul Al-Sayed, not DSA, but DSA aligned, is still out there talking about how, yes, there should be funding for transition surgeries for minors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's still going to be the problem that DSA has to deal with is this weak spot that their own members believe passionately about, and that the interest groups are going to demand them to obey. Now, as Matthew Iglesias points out in his recent piece, the DSA is sort of unencumbered by those interest groups in the way that the establishment is. So it's interesting to think with the famous example is, of course, Bill Clinton sort of reforming the Democrats so that he can run on a more moderate way in 1992. If anybody was able to do that now, it would be like Mamdani. Like he would be and it's so interesting to see that like there's a way in which like Mamdani has absolutely eclipsed AOC. He's in an executive role.
He's much
I think
better.
there's a lot of ways in which he's actually a better politician.
Yeah. He is much more skilled and adept at politicking. AOC, she's an amateur. She comes off like she has decent political instincts, but she doesn't really know how to implement them. She doesn't have the the pizzazz and the ability to sell it. Her instincts are great, but she doesn't know how to capitalize on them. She doesn't know how to make a big splash with her instincts. Mamdani, homeboy, is an operator. Dude is an operator. There's a good chance that guy's, he could be really big in American politics. I mean, just being honest, the guy is, and he comes off as a greasy car salesman to me, a schmoozer. It's kind of off-putting, but there is something about it that, he actually at least goes through the motions, and I don't know, sometimes he does come off sincere. I do get the feeling like, he doesn't care about, it's not the money and stuff. He actually just wants to at least give the certain things a try. At least give them a good old college try.
He's able to sort of do two sort of seemingly different things at the same time. He's made some mistakes. Obviously, we saw Francesca Hong lose in Wisconsin. She's the one that wanted to cancel Thanksgiving.
Idiot.
She obviously there are limits, right, for voters. Somebody that she also had confessed to having been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So there were other problems with her, but even she was willing to come out and just I think she posed with a Thanksgiving dinner and said Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday. So that sort of, I hate to say it, but ruthlessness on the part of the DSA, I think is a sign that they're formidable and they're not something that can be dismissed.
They don't just crumble or fold under pressure. They're willing to to endure, they're willing to endure adversity, and they don't back down. And just from that stuff we watched yesterday and what I've seen of the DSA, it is packed, or it is staffed and run by people who are tired of this crap, that just they just want to actually have the opportunity to do something and actually try and implement stuff. They're all private people and they're not in it. They're not just trying to get rich or something or get power. Maybe they are trying to get power, but they seem genuine. Like, they're regular people and they're just kind of itching to get in the driver's seat. And there's a certain amount of relatability, and it's like, I get it, because if I was in their position with and I was running on immigrant, I would be dying to get in the driver's seat too, because they aren't politicians. They're not the establishment. They're like the establishment. They lie to your face and they go out of their way to tell you they're going to do everything to your heart's content and desire, knowing that they're lying and they're not going to give you crap. They're not going to give you anything. These people, no, they're sincere. They want to do these things. They want to implement these things. So, they're like a dog with a bone. You're not going to back them down. You're going to have to take them out, like that Graham Plattner. You're going to have to whack him over the head. It's like, it's just a flesh wound. 'Tis but a scratch. Like, you've really got to basically blow the guy's brains out to get him to lay down.
And that they're going to have to find a way to manage all that woke cultural baggage. But I think that parties can do that. I think that politicians are able to do that.
You guys aren't commenting tonight? Okay. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, fellas.
Proven themselves able to do that. And so that it's sort of like, if you keep raising it, they go, "I've already addressed that. We're ready to move on." And I think people will be kind of like, "Yeah, okay, fine. We'll move on."
Right. Well, let's talk about one of their biggest cultural albatrosses, which is the trans topic, particularly. Now, to be clear, when you're in a bad economy, yes, this issue matters to people. I always describe it as a sanity litmus test that people apply to politicians who, if you can't have a non-bizarre, weird answer to the question of whether boys should be in girls' sports and whether they should be changing in locker rooms, it just is hard for people to take you seriously.
Yeah, because if you're that crazy on that, well, we already know you're talking about communism and stuff. You're trying to destroy society. These people, they want to destroy our society as we know it, like a revolution, so that it's totally unrecognizable on the other end, on the other side. And those are the people that believe in the trans stuff, like these diehards, the nutbags. Yeah, they want to radically transform everything. And I mean, we're a dead duck if those people get a hold of the levers of power.
Now, on the other hand, if you're like Graham Plattner and you clearly believe that, yes, all of these things should be happening and you cling to it and you own it, it's probably a better approach than trying to water down your past positions. On the other hand, in a tough economy for Republicans, this issue definitely carries less water. It has less power. Meanwhile, though, it's still a very real battle on the left. Although they're not really dealing with it at all. Let's talk about the WNBA as a jumping off point to get to some of your new reporting and news on the WPATH front as well. So Sophie Cunningham was asked about the booze that she's been getting recently.
Lucky, man. It hit my tooth, not my lip, because it burned the hell out of your lip if you let it touch it. I've done that like 3 times in my life.
Although there's been some support too. And here's what she had to say at a press conference this week.
Sophie, you got booed a little bit tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
I was kidding.
Especially
I
for
know.
that. In the top. Do you think it was because of the ketchup chips?
You know what? Yeah, I like where your mind's at on that. Maybe I should try. I heard I was supposed to try a different brand. So, but you know what? I will tell you. I want to shout out the Tempo crowd in the city. I think we've had so much fun. It's my first time being in Canada. It's a lot of our first times being in Canada. But the crowd was absolutely amazing. And, you know, I think that's what sports is all about. You're going to get boos, you're going to get cheers. But just the fact that they're so passionate, they're loud, and they're putting on for the city, I think it's amazing. So shout out to you guys for coming out and supporting.
So she obviously very casually and civilly came out against boys playing in girls sports. That's what kicked this whole thing off. Now, she's had some supporters showing up at games. We can put this athletic tear sheet up on the screen. They reported multiple fans were asked by WNBA security to cover shirts bearing messages regarding transgender athlete participation in women's sports during Sunday's game between the Indiana Fever and the Atlanta Dream. A statement from a WNBA spokesperson said the individuals should not have been asked to do so. I think they were just XXXY shirts from Jen Say's brand, Michael, but this is the WNBA has made this both racial and turned it into a sexual orientation battle in a way that I have to imagine is turning a lot of average Americans, not who are exactly WNBA diehard viewers, but a lot of average Americans see this insanity and they do still attribute it to the ideological left.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, for me, trans as well is just a super important issue. I think kids are being harmed. And, you know, the big one for me is still gender affirming care, mislabeled gender affirming care, but trans medical procedures on kids. It's just a bright moral line, you know.
Why can't they just leave the kids alone? They've already made our society so inhospitable for raising children. They turned our society into a red light district. You know, and they're not content with that. They won't be content until they've made every last single American that's alive and going forward, until they've made them all into alternative lifestyle people, trans, you know, homosexual, just the gamut. Like that's the goal is to, I mean, it's for white people especially, you know, how many to keep white people from ending up being white people, you know, get them to identify with some bull or garbage marginalized group. It's disgusting. You know, these lifestyles, they're not conducive to flourishing and happiness. It's the last time you saw some a homosexual or a trans or lesbian that you were jealous of, that you were like, man, where can I get that state of mind? Like, I want what she or he's never.
For me, I think for a lot of people, it's a switch, not a dial. Like you can look at something like Medicare for all and how you can provide health care. It's like, it's all gray area, right? Like we're all like, there's just, you know, I mean, you can be like a hard libertarian and be like, that's my bright line. But for most people, the government's going to provide health care at some rates. It's going to be negotiated. It's complicated. Like trans, it's like it's a bright line. Like you either want you want males and female sports and spaces, or you don't. You want minors protected from these medical procedures or not. And I think we saw in the 2024 election, it did have a kind of broader brand value. You know, the Kamala's for they, them, and Trump is for you. I do think that that's still there. And so I 100% agree. Albatross for the left, the biggest one, maybe bigger than race, which is, I think, close behind. Probably not as big as borders, but now the border's closed and the Democrats have endorsed a closed border. That's off the table. But, you know, I think trans is just going to continue to be a problem for Democrats. And, you know, Republicans probably are
And it's crazy to say that too. I think he's right, but it's crazy. It's like, bro, it is a red hot cast iron skillet, and they got bare hands, and they just won't let go of that thing. I mean, they're letting that thing burn their hand to a cinder before they drop it. I mean, bro, why can't they just drop it? Let it go, man. Like they're just gonna commit stand there holding. I had a boss years ago doing tree work. This dude was shot out. I remember one night coming over the next day to work, and his hand had this gnarly burn across it. He's a crackhead. The dude rung his bell so hard, he stood there holding a glass crack pipe, red hot crack pipe in his hand for like 5 minutes, dude. Just standing there while the train goes by. Like, damn, bro. Man, that's what I think of when I hear this stuff about the Democrats. It's crazy.
Glad that it's still going to be an issue. I mean, it's amazing to me that we saw Gavin Newsom very briefly right after 2024 elections. He kind of puts his toe in the water and goes, "Yeah, I don't think that males should be in female sports," and is just shouted down by the base of the Democratic Party, and he had to back off and sort of say, "Oh, I have a trans nephew or a trans godson." So I do
Seth
think
Moulton as well.
yeah. So, the Democrats really seem stuck on it. It seems like it's a really big problem for them. And so, yeah, I mean, it could be one of those things that until the Democrats can find a way to get away from that and take a position against it, that they are going to lose votes on it. Will it ever be decisive? The only thing I was going to point out too, Emily, was like, Democrats should be just killing it right now. I mean, like
Right.
Trump's in a super unpopular war. It's raising gasoline. It's keeping gasoline
How are they not crushing? It's crazy.
prices high. Nobody knows how we're going to end the war in Iran. Was it really necessary? I think most people were like, it seemed like, maybe should have been leave, sleeping dogs, let sleeping dogs lie. And the Democrats should be killing it, and they're really not. They're still working this stuff out. And that's why Evan is like, it'll take a generation. It's more like 10 to 15 years for the Democrats to sort it out, not 12 to 18 months.
But in stepping back from politics, there's a real reckoning, professional reckoning happening for the industry, the nonprofit industry, the medical industry that literally profited off of this happening right now. This Daily Signal article pointed out, interestingly, it was by Tyler O'Neill. Shout out to Tyler, who's done some of the best SPLC reporting as well, that while Democrats, activist groups, and medical associations cannot emphasize that last part enough, by the way, medical associations have long cited the World Professional Association for Transgender Health Standards of Care as the ultimate authority on a scientific consensus for sex-rejecting procedures. WPATH just made an admission in court that threatens to undermine that exalted authority. They're being sued by the FTC, basically.
Our government just gives there's like no restrictions on like any institution. They have all the latitude in the world open to them for creating new subscription models, for creating new customers. They can invent whatever whack job, wackadoo, insane gender surgery and stuff. They can invent anything they want, and our government will rubber stamp that so fast it'll make your head spin, man. Same thing with the dating market, bro. It's like somebody just threw us in the water with a bunch of sharks in a feeding frenzy. Our government, it facilitates the fleecing and bro, our government launders makes it possible for hospitals to prey upon young people and then pressure their parents, lying and pressuring their parents. Like, bro, our society, bro, is so rotten. It's downright rotten to the core. I don't think there's really anything worth saving anymore. Nothing that the establishment has had control of, nothing that all of these stooges or crooks have like what they've been doing with the NGOs, you know, the and the academia and intelligence. It's all rotten, man. None of it is worth a damned anymore. And you know, however rotten it seems to us, for sure, it's probably double as bad as we think it is. You know, they're just hiding it. You know, it's like, you know, if you see you know, an infestation or roaches or whatever, you know, if you see one, well, you can better believe there's 100 hiding out of sight, you know, immediately out of sight. And that's, we have our government, we went from having the model, like everybody in the world's jealous, to under the boot heel of a bunch of stuffed suit, scumbag, milk toast, rhinos, and liberals. Evil people that that do the inside trading. They all get rich as you know, they make as much cash as Croesus. All kinds of shady deal. It's insane. It's like beyond what you would think is possible. They have all these little side deals. They're all doing crooked, corrupt things, you know, embezzling, giving favors to their buddies, to businesses. And at the same time, they're drilling us with like tax increases and censorship and in legislation. I mean, we're being hit by these people, and they're making it possible. Like, you know, they're giving AI a free hand, data centers. I mean, bro, our government isn't to protect us from these jackals. Our government is like, it has taken on the job of constricting us, holding us down while the jackals eat our innards and our entrails while we're alive. You know, like, we get to watch while a bunch of Sam Altman jackals eat our guts while we're watching. It's just, you know, I mean, whatever happens to these politicians or into this system, into this era, whatever happens, it won't be half as bad as they deserve.
For deceptive practices for promoting quote unquote gender affirming care, as Tyler notes, that causes harm to patients, particularly minors. They asked the court to dismiss that lawsuit by claiming that the government was just retaliating against them because they disagreed with their protected speech. They claimed basically that their standards of care were, quote, opinions. Meanwhile, Michael, you have a new report. You say puberty blockers, hormones, and surgeries are life-saving for trans-identified people, said Democrats. In truth, they've resulted in the worst medical scandal since lobotomies. Now, a major new study finds the Biden administration facilitated the fraudulent billings that financed it. And I went through this study and read your reporting, Michael. This is a real reckoning, and it will hopefully, I'm curious for your take on this, it will hopefully change what was happening, where you had some 14,000, according to Do No Harm, a conservative group, some 14,000 transitions happen. I think close to 5,000 of those, probably more, were actual sex surgeries, were actual surgical interventions. So there is a reckoning happening. Tell us about your reporting.
Yeah, I mean, this was very bravo to HHS for doing this study. You know, when we did the WPATH files, which were, of course, these internal files leaked to us, they showed a lot of conversation about basically billing things using the billing codes for insurers or for Medicare or Medicaid, you know, but basically billing the government or billing insurers using these particular codes, but that didn't apply to the person in question. So they were doing, arguably, this whole thing has been based on fraudulent billings. It reminded me a little bit of like how they finally got Al Capone, not on, you know, running the mob, but through tax evasion. Yeah. So in that sense, I'm like, bravo, I applaud it. But the underlying issue is just that this is an awful medical scandal, and
and they're doing it for profits. They're doing it for profits. No other reason. They're not trying to help people. They invented this stuff. You know, in the healthcare sector, dude, it's all other industries, the market and the jobs are shrinking, except healthcare. It's the only one that's growing. It's swallowing all the other industries. I mean, pretty soon every job is going to be healthcare sector. And that it's because of what they're doing with the trans they're you know, they're preying on human beings now. There's no other word for it. This is predatory. You know, like they have created such a toxic and rotten society and social structure that everybody's a mess. All the young people are a mess. And now they're funneling these young people who are, you know, lost, listless, funneling them into trance.
The public is clearly moving against this stuff. I mean, the Democrats' opposition to trans medical procedures has just increased every year. I've seen it in the progressives that I talk to, who I've been talking to for years, trying to get them to see how terrible this stuff is. Finally,
Hey, I'm glad to hear that, though, Alex. Good for you, man. Builds character.
seen them come around a bit more. So I think something has changed. I don't know if it was 2024. I don't know if it was just repetition. My experience, you have to show people the victims. You have to be like, this person, Chloe Cole, 15 years old, double mastectomy. How is that okay? She can't consent to that. So yeah, and I think that, look, it's just my view is lobotomies. It's just people are gonna look back on this moment and be in horror. It's a little bit like a horror movie where the character does something. I don't want to spoil the plot of a great horror movie that's in the theaters now, but sort of something where you sort of wake up at something and discover that you've been doing something horrible. I think that's the experience that a lot of Democrats and progressives are having and are going to have a lot more.
Dude, how could they not see that what they were doing was horrible from the jump? How could they not see that? You're castrating children. You know, they castrated little boys in the Renaissance to make castrati, which were literally opera singers. The parents would like donate their kids or give their kids to or have their kid castrated so that they could enter the most prestigious music schools. It was like considered a lucky break. You know, poor families, if their kid was good at singing, well, yeah, they would have them castrated because they would end up, stars basically. And the reason why it was it was a thing because they have the lung capacity of a man and a bigger mouth, a mouth like a man, like a esophagus and mouth. Women have smaller stuff, so it's not as loud. But boys that haven't gone through puberty, that are adults, their vocal cords are still young, or still like a kid's. They're thin. They don't get wider and deeper. So they have the vocal range that they did as a kid, like a woman, and also a bigger bullhorn, like a bigger bullhorn for projecting that sound. But yeah, they did that for like a century or two, and then rightfully people said, "Whoa, what are we doing? This is downright evil," and they stopped it. They knew this in the Renaissance. How do we not know this today? How do we not know this today? I don't get it.
And, bring us into this reporting too, because when you're going through the HHS documents, as you did, you notice what they're using is like endocrine diagnoses and stuff to get. Can you explain to that, just like a little bit of the nuts and bolts of what they were doing to get some of these medications and treatments?
Yeah, I mean, well, so one of the categories, I mean, maybe the prototypical category was precocious puberty. And so, this is for kids that go through puberty too early. You want to slow them down a bit. And so we use these things called puberty blockers to do that. These very potent chemicals very serious chemicals. So they're just claiming that children that identify as the opposite gender are suffering precocious puberty. Well, that's fraud. I mean, that's just not true, you know. And so the kids wouldn't say that. The parents couldn't say that. The provider wouldn't say that. So that's medical fraud, you know, and they should be prosecuted for it. The amounts of money like aren't the point here. It's just that you've got now the government now has a mechanism to basically go after the insurers and the providers, the medical providers, and it is having an effect. I mean, we know for a fact that it's had big impacts on, say, the Boston Children's, on California Children's. You know, we emailed, gosh, it was dozens of hospitals asking them what their policies were. Most of them didn't want to say, but I just think that they know they're under the microscope and they could face lawsuits, and that they can also see the public is turning against this, which means that juries will be turning against it. So yeah, that's the underlying fraud, was that they were just mislabeling. They were giving puberty blockers to trans-identifying children and claiming that they were suffering from precocious puberty.
The TERFs like Kara Dansky have obviously, and J.K. Rowling have obviously been on this for many, many years. But I'm curious, you know, people who maybe don't know some of your backstory, you spent a lot of time on the like anti-corporate left. And to me, this is such an obvious example of how corporations, pharma were funneling money to organizations like HRC, which were then talking about how great these pharma products were, treating kids, making money off of it. And I wonder if you've had any luck even using that angle to try and highlight how wrong some of this is, just with friends of yours that remain progressive. Like, what has it been like for you? I know you were talking about individual stories like Chloe's, incredibly powerful, but that angle as well, just, it drives me crazy. We have this institutional trust like decline across the board in the United States. A lot of that is going towards corporations, pharma, and here we have such a classic case study of it. And it got so little attention from the left, like leftists.
Nothing. Yeah, I mean, I guess I think the harm that the thing is causing has to come first for people, because obviously if you think that it's really medically necessary, then the cost of it or even having some billing problems seems like a minor issue. It reminds me a little bit of renewables. Like, I think conservatives would complain about renewables as expensive, which they are. But if you think renewables are good and are saving nature, then you kind of go, well, then we should pay a little bit more for it. Or even with a COVID vaccine, people say, oh, you know, Pfizer made all this money, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but if you think the vaccine was good, then I think the money that most of us would be like, wow, we want people to profit when they're delivering a good product. So in my experience, particularly when you're talking to people that are on the fence or on the left, you really have to start with the harm it causes, and to really break through that really hard ideology of I'm a moral person because I support trans kids or whatever. You have to be like, what about this kid? Like, it has to be really specific. It has to penetrate their little dream world and the bubble that they're in. And I think it has to be repetitive. You have to keep doing it. I think when you kind of go, there's these other parts of it that were bad as well. That can come later. But if you think that doing these things to children is good, then I think the fact that there was, you know, medical fraud involved just doesn't have the same impact.
Let's take a quick break. We're going to be back with more Michael Schellenberger in just a moment. We're going to cover Hunter Biden, Eric Swalwell, and top Fauci advisor pleading guilty. We'll be right back. All right, everyone. I am honored to pass along.
I'm gonna use the bathroom right quick.
Udisti qualche bella dal vago abbandonata. Poverina, poverina. Cerchiam di consolare il suo tormento, così ne consolò 1800. Chi mi dice mai quel barbaro dov'è? Che mi nasconda mai, che mi nasconde che poverina, poverina. Cerchiam di consolare il suo tormento, così ne consolò 1800. Mi pare sentir
This will be the last one. Like a minute and a half. I think it's a minute and a half. It's 3 minutes.
a heartfelt thank you. It's very clever, the language that he's using, that he doesn't recall dropping off that laptop at John Paul McIsaac's repair shop in Delaware. Listen to the language here in his conversation with Tucker.
I just want to ask you point blank,
look,
did you drop off laptops?
No. And this is the thing that I've said over and over again. I have literally zero.
You know, it's funny now that I hear, or that I heard Hunter's side of it. I think I think it makes sense. Like, yeah, I now that I think of it, and he mentions it's like, yeah, you know, there probably wasn't actually a laptop. They probably just hacked his crap, got his stuff, and that was the cover story to leak all of his crap out into the open, you know, to try and damage Joe Biden. But, you know, now that I think about it, it's like, bro, yeah, all that does seem like a bunch of garbage. Like, none of that stuff matters really, and it never did matter. It was just how they laundered it into the public.
Zero recollection or memory of ever dropping off a laptop.
You don't remember?
John Paul McIsaac's. No.
Okay.
He was probably hammered, though. I mean, you kind of go like,
yes,
he was high and drunk like a lot. So the idea that he couldn't remember something is not hard to believe. Remember, his signature is on a computer repair store. So I mean, what I mean, no one's. I've never heard anybody even allege that his signature was faked or is fraudulent or is inauthentic. So you remember when the New York Post story came out about the Hunter Biden laptop, which shows the family influence peddling at scale. They have the FBI subpoena taking the laptop in December 2019, and they have the repair store owner, whatever is the invoice or the the signature. I mean, the paper trail, as like a journalist, to have a paper trail that good is pretty rare. So we're dealing with like stuff where we have.
But that's why it kind of seems bogus. You know? It kind of seems bogus. And the guy didn't have camera foot because his camera was down or something. Like, okay, man. I wish they would just be honest and be like, yeah, we've hacked his crap and we got all of his dirt, you know? Throw it out there. Instead, there has to be a debate about it until the end of time about what actually took place.
No paper trail. This is pretty, for me, very solid. So I don't know what he's trying to do there.
He's being careful. He's saying he doesn't recall it, and actually that's right before he says he got sober. When he would have dropped the laptop off, when the laptop ends up in John Paul McIsaac's hands, and we have the signature of the drop off, that's before he says he got sober, which is why I think he's carefully using the do not recall language. The serial number was matched in court. It's really like spreading like wildfire because he's running a very clever social media campaign. And the unfortunate, I think, downstream consequence is that it's going to continue to gloss over how the FBI, and again, the CIA as well, that 51 former intelligence officer letter, that part of that was being organized with a CIA email address, like the official CIA.gov, as my former editor, Sean Davis, reported as soon as we found out. You've been doing a lot of reporting on this recently because you're still putting the pieces together as a reporter of this. Let's put Michael's post up on the screen. You reported, we've known since 2023 that the FBI illegally spread disinformation about Hunter Biden's laptop, an operation that culminated in the censorship of a New York Post story in October 2020 by Twitter and Facebook. Now, newly released documents reveal the partisan FBI group that ran it. You also reported that in recent days, Jim Jordan says the FBI gave him a fake defensive briefing back in 2020 in what appears to be the same deception operation that resulted in Facebook and Twitter censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story. There's now strong evidence linking the head of that op to FBI Director Wray. Michael, they were in Hunter Biden's corner. The intelligence agencies were in his corner throughout all of this. Tell us more about what you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, this is, it's really, I'd say it's fun, but it is fun because you get to, the pieces of the puzzle are falling into place. And obviously one of the things you fear the most as a journalist is that like you maybe got it wrong. And so when you see the puzzle pieces falling where they should, you're like, yeah, even though it's all terrible. But basically, yeah, I mean, what happened is that ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, released a report about what they called an informal group, but it had a name, Round River. And it was basically run by the Foreign Interference Task Force, which, for people that remember within the FBI, also was the ones that were engaging with Twitter and Facebook and constantly asking them to censor things and had all these weird interactions right before Twitter made the decision to censor the Hunter Biden laptop in October 2020. That's important because we know Mark Zuckerberg said that the FBI had gone to them directly to warn of the Hunter Biden, or to warn of Russian interference. My hypothesis, and I think the data show it, but I can't prove it yet, is that it was the same group who did that with Twitter. Then you kind of go, well, what else was going on at the time? This dawned on me, I think, like a year or two ago, where I realized that there was a single FBI disinformation operation aimed at misleading people about the Hunter Biden laptop, and it was going on really starting because this group, the other thing, it starts in December 2019, right after FBI gets the Hunter Biden laptop.
That is such an important bit in the timeline. So they get the laptop, but the public doesn't know about it, and so they start briefing tech companies, or people start briefing tech companies to prepare for something that looks like Russian disinformation. As soon as it comes out, that we have this letter that's saying it has all the hallmarks, right? That's the progression.
Yeah, it really goes December. They start this little informal group within FBI. Already in I believe spring of 2020, there's other things that are going on. There's a weird, again, I can't prove it. It seems connected. It seems like it's coming from the FBI. A Stanford group puts out a report saying we have to get over the Pentagon Papers principle. Pentagon Papers principle is that the New York Times is going to publish these leaked documents from the Pentagon about how we're losing the war in Vietnam. It's 60.
One of my favorite journalists. She's like a small-time journalist. She's really smart. I think she just had a kid, but like she worked for the government, all kinds of degrees, and like got kind of sold the girl boss thing, and then like got out of it, moved across the country from Washington. She does really, really good pieces. Like I love them. Like every time, she's been nursing her kids. She hasn't been doing them as much lately, but used to do like at least like 30 minutes of stuff a day. Bangers, dude. Absolute bangers. She has a Substack, and she does, she writes it out and then does a video, basically, just talking about it. And she's been in the belly of the beast, and she's very intelligent. I actually really enjoy what she has to say. Every now and again, she has a few, her affect, like she's from a different part of the country, and she was raised like Christian, went to church a lot, but there's a couple of like ways she says, stupid stuff, but I really enjoy her channel otherwise.
Well, howdy y'all. This is my first video that I'm making since becoming a mom. And I saw this conversation that's been happening on X, and I just had to chime in because this is exactly where I'm at right now. So baby and I are
with the postpartum thing.
Doing great. He is napping right now. Slightly waking up from his nap, so he may make some noises here and there.
She's my age too, maybe a year younger.
But he likes to nap on me, so that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But yeah, I've missed.
She has a very kind of homely look about her, like kind of in a good way. She's another thing too is she's very clearly of British stock or of Northwestern European, but I think her last name's Claypool now. Like she has a really sort of pretty complexion. Like I kind of a sucker for the fair hair and fair skin. With the really pale white, milk white skin. And trying to tell you.
Making videos, but as I dive into this, I'll explain why it's been challenging to do so. So if you're not following this conversation on X, this is a post that Matt Walsh made recently in regards to the Lindsay Clancy trial. And I'm gonna be totally honest with you, I remember reading about it in the news after it happened, and I hadn't paid attention to it, and now that it's in trial, it's back in the news. And I can't bring myself to pay attention to the details. I have a 4-month-old. Her youngest child was 8 months old. So it's
Creepy,
it hits way
yeah.
too close to home. So I wanted to say I'm not deep into the weeds of it, so I'm not going to comment on the case. And while this is pertaining to the case, the scope in which I am talking about, or specifically what I'm talking about, is Matt Walsh's commentary on postpartum depression. So I'm not in any way condoning what Lindsay Clancy did. It's despicable and heinous, but there's a much bigger conversation that's happening on X right now about postpartum depression and whether or not someone like her is responsible for their actions because of postpartum depression and all of the medication she's on. And so the internet's kind of torn. You have one group of people who's like, hey, she can't be responsible, she can't hold liable because she wasn't in her right mind. And then you have other folks who'll be like, well, it doesn't matter, like she's responsible, yada yada yada. I'm not commenting on that. I just want to speak specifically to Matt Walsh, because I think while he was trying to vocalize an opinion about whether or not she should be responsible, I think it has since devolved into a diatribe against postpartum depression, to the point where there are other people commenting on X saying that postpartum depression isn't real. This is one thing that I saw that Jack Posobiec, another broadly.
And that's kind of just the way conservatives are. They're no help for anything. And I kind of used to be guilty of that too, but it's like no matter what happens, their stance is always the same. It's always holier art than thou. Oh, you should have thought of that. It's always the wagging the finger. You should have been more responsible, this and that. And it's like always about blaming people. Like they don't actually have any solutions or anything positive to add, but they just want to get their licks in. They just want to get their finger wagging in. And then they walk away, leave it alone. They don't have anything else to say but negative crap. But they got to get those licks in. Got to get them in. It's like, dude, you people are worthless, man. You're worthless. Okay, maybe you're successful in your life. That doesn't help anybody. It's like, how is somebody that's supposed to be like a thought leader, they're just so, I get leading by example and stuff, but it's like they're just so old and not reasonable. I guess I can see that maybe there's a place for that, like, role model or an example in our society, but it's tired. They need to let it go, put it down, dude. You're literally making your political future harder. Like you're just driving people away. It's so productive.
Missing from this conversation, and what he doesn't realize that he said by writing this is that there's this unspoken expectation that once
It's funny you mentioned that. An Asian chick that I used to mess around with, from Hong Kong. Yeah, she got pregnant and had a kid. And then like I heard from when she was pregnant, and then like 3 or 4 months later, I talked to her again because I knew she had the kid, and she didn't have the kid. She gave it to the father. Like, kind of blew my mind, bro. I'm like, whoa, like, yeah, and she's got a boyfriend now. I'm thinking, Jesus, what world do we live in?
become a mother, that is 100% all that you are allowed to be. So there's this immense guilt, I would say, and a lot of shame during the 4th trimester. And I haven't even gotten to the biological side yet, so stay with me for a moment. But psychologically, socially, there's
this one of the things that kind of annoys me a little bit about her is that she tries to talk so fast that she'll sort of jumble syllables. She'll kind of rush through words. She just kind of half-ass a word and not pronounce the last syllable. It's very minor, but I'm nitpicky like that. What can I say?
I'd say immense guilt and shame as you're transitioning. You're leaving the person you used to know, the person you used to be, and you're becoming someone different. And I think most people would agree that in the long term, it's a net positive. Motherhood is great, wonderful. Becoming a parent, challenges you and helps you grow, and frankly helps you become an adult. There are challenges with that, right? For me, one of the big things I've been struggling with is I'm a runner. I've run 11 marathons. I love running. We got a treadmill, so I'm running at home, but I'm really struggling with that aspect of my identity. That's something I've deeply rooted myself in.
And identity, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. It's going to become more, it's got to become more and more a part of our lives. And I lament it, man, because I know that the fact that she's talking about identity, like, this does not bode well. This political addition to our politics, we could have we've done without it for hundreds of years now. So unnecessary.
And before I gave birth and even after I gave birth, there's days where I've just been overwhelmed and inconsolable because I have convinced myself in my mind that I'm like not allowed to run anymore, right? Because the narrative is I have to be 100% of a mom 100% of the time. Amanda doesn't exist anymore. I'm just mom, right? And so the idea of me being a marathoner and continuing to run after becoming a mom seems inherently selfish. And it's because of conversations like this. It's because of commentary that Matt Walsh is saying.
Not gonna lie, I kind of feel like that it is. Yeah, like, yeah, she shouldn't want to be doing that running. I mean, maybe it's wrong for me to say that, but I mean, it's like my opinion. Honestly, I think maybe she should sort of let that go or forget about that for a little while. Come back to that later. And I think she's spending too much time worrying about it and thinking about it. She should just put it out of her head for a little while, a few months at least. Don't tell yourself that you can never do it again. Just say, taking a break from that, take care of some business. But I think I kind of agree with that. I think maybe she should be more, not should be, but like you'd hope that she would want to just focus on her kid for 6 months or whatever till things sort of flatten out. But, that's just my opinion. What do I know?
And so that has a negative effect on me. And it makes me feel like I'm not allowed to do the things that I used to love and I used to want to do. And that is part of postpartum depression, when you no longer have interest in things that you once had interest in, and like feeling like you're not allowed to do things. And so it's a scale, right? Like there's a difference between actually being depressed and not being interested in doing things and being socially conditioned, like how Matt Walsh is doing here, to convince you that running is inherently selfish. But that's something right at this moment I'm continuing to grapple with. It's
Typical millennial, overthinking it, driving her, I don't know, driving herself crazy over it when it's not that big of a deal. It's about running, for goodness sake. It's the same thing, that Clancy woman. She drove herself crazy. Literally. It was all in her head. These expectations on her, she put on herself and stuff. It's not healthy. Why aren't they content? Why can't they just switch gears and take things as they come for a little while? Why do they have to think 5 years? You have to have a 5-year plan for everything.
Want to run the Boston Marathon. I qualified in 2024, but because of how competitive the field was for the 2025 race, I didn't get a bib. I was a minute off from getting a bib. So,
what a tragedy.
That is something I've been struggling with. And if you have a career, there's women that struggle with that.
What adversity. Oh, where does she find the endurance for that?
Women that feel guilty for leaving their babies in daycare so they can go back to work because they have to work. Like, there's all sorts of guilt and shame that is wrapped up in.
Rightfully so. A woman should feel rightfully guilty when she's dropping off her baby to go to work. No shit, she should feel guilty. Duh.
during the fourth trimester, and a lot of that is this social conditioning, in part from conservative men like this that have a archetype of how a woman should behave. Also, mom culture is pretty toxic. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, but God, mom culture is awful. So there's the social element of it, but then compounding that is the actual biological reality of giving birth, and in the after effects of that, and that is something no one prepares you for. Again, the fourth trimester, not something that was on my radar before I gave birth, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into it, and it's like, oh my gosh, what is happening? So for women, right, like throughout this whole process, like your body is incubating an entirely new body. So your hormones are all out of whack. For me, like physically,
And you can tell she was like probably a total teacher's pet. She's like, she's getting excited talking about the minutia. And I get it though. She's like 35, first kid. This is a big deal for her. You know, she got in just, she slid under the door as it was closing. Just got in over the line, but so I get it. And she's wanting to enjoy that landmark achievement, wanting to enjoy that finally, she has that in common with all the other mothers now. Sort of a rite of passage. I guess I get it. But women, that a lot of these things, they turn into pathologies, and you end up with this Lindsay Clancy email that it's like we have no guardrails for women in our culture or society anymore. They're told to spread their wings and do their thing. Everything, all their behaviors are affirmed. Whether they're good or bad, it doesn't matter. So they have no check on any of their appetites, any of their proclivities. They have no check on any of it. And it just seems to consume them. Like modernity seems to consume women, but like specifically though, their own sort of their own appetites, their own proclivity, yeah, they like consume them, and they end up like having to work on themselves and go to therapy and stuff because they let it go for so long, and anybody that tries to say anything to them about it, they get defensive and start freaking out, defending themselves. It's just like, and this mode of living that we have, there's not a chance in the world that this is gonna work. It's like you have to be radically changed because this is broken. It's like they got rid of the old ways. Everybody got married and had a family. They got rid of all that stuff because it's oppressive and this and that. And watch, they've mucked everything up so bad, and to fix it, they'll have to enact legislation that's equally as arbitrary and equally as oppressive, probably more oppressive to both. We'll end up in a worse position than we were 60 years ago when only one parent had to work. Like, man, it's just drives me crazy, man, because nobody's going to take responsibility for this. And men are going to bear this load, bear this burden. We already are. The women in the sexual revolution, basically shackles are thrown off. Women, they couldn't just sleep around before because they would get pregnant and there would be social blowback. And women are hypergamous. They want, they have high standards, rightfully so. But you get rid of those impediments like they did in the sexual revolution, all of a sudden, women can follow their heart's desire. Whatever takes their fancy, they can do it, and we've seen them doing it. So all of the responsibilities and all of the obligations that were once incumbent upon women, those were totally thrown in the garbage in the sexual revolution. But not the men's obligations. You know, they both had their obligations. Women's obligations got just wished away. But men are still expected to protect, provide, compete, pursue. But women, they no longer they're not expected to be loyal. They're not expected to be yeah, they're not expected to be even exclusive now. You're not men. They do all start a family. They bust their ass. They get all their ducks in a row, and they can't. You know, it's too much to ask for monogamy from these women. You know, they can't. They're that's too big of an ask. You know, they pay for everything. The wife's money is her money, and she gets all of the cash and prizes, but no longer has to have any sense of loyalty. Like nowadays, it's practically they every now and again they straight up push that it's like women should be able to sleep around in a marriage, and that it's like kind of restrictive and constraint. You know, it's kind of old fashioned, and like they openly push cuckoldry every now and again. Openly push this stuff, like, and I've seen it firsthand. It's crazy. You know, like a guy provide 2, 3, 4 kids or whatever, and then the woman, she just decides, you know, she's not old yet, and guys are taking her fancy. So the guy gives in. Like I've seen this firsthand. It's crazy. And they're doing everything that men have always been expected to do. You know, the women, they're carrying the children, but that's it. That's it. There's no respect. There's no uh loyalty, exclusivity. It's just, or you're not really getting anything, and you don't even have assurance or insurance. She could take you for everything you got, take all the kids anytime she wants to. It's like, okay, why would I do this? You know, it's like I wish that I could just have the kid, get the kid from myself, just do the single parent thing myself. The rest is, bro, it's with everything else. I'm not doing it. Like I'm not doing it. Not doing it. I would like to have kids, but I don't know. I guess not bad enough to you know, to open myself up to or to you know, open be vulnerable and open. It just seems sort of dumb. Sort of dumb, you know? Women, they're not asked to do any of that stuff. They don't have to do any of that stuff. What the hell? And yeah, I don't like I get it. Like a lot of guys, they find somebody they trust. Man, how can you trust these? They change their mind on a dime. Change their mind on a dime, and it's and I feel like I get this sense that our culture and society at the moment, there's no there's no thought of, nobody cares about the future or the next generation. It's like we don't, like nobody even really cares that the birth rate's going down. I'm starting to wonder, like, does it even matter if we continue as a species anymore? Like, really? Let's be honest here. Does it really matter anymore? I don't think it does. I don't think people care. Women don't care. Politicians don't care. should we care? You know what I mean? Like it's uh we've pretty much done everything that we ever dreamed of doing, AI going to the moon, like maybe it's maybe we should just pack it in. And like it just I seem to be uh, the way it feels is like I'm the only one that cares, or like, like I'm the only one that worries about or thinks about it. And it's just like, am I the idiot here? Like, am I the patsy? Like, am I missing something? Did everybody else get a memo that I'm, missed or something? That's how it feels, like I'm not sure that it really matters anymore. And that why should I, like, doesn't seem like anybody else cares. So like, maybe I shouldn't care either. I mean, nobody's concerned about growing the population. It's like nobody cares. And starting to think like, and it doesn't matter what I care about. I'm one person, you know what I mean? Like nobody else cares. What's the point in me caring? I don't know. It's like I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and it's really demoralizing, disheartening because everybody and a lot, like I'm kind of chalking it up to like I tend to see things before everybody else, like, or things worry me a little bit before, or a little earlier than most people. And it is frustrating. It drives me mad that I can see problems, and doesn't matter what I do, people they're oblivious, or they don't care. Like, I don't know. I was thinking about this today, how it's like I'm the only one. Like I do want to have a family and kids, but it's like I'm the only one that actually wants that. Like, and I have to do all the work to make that happen. The woman, she just kind of has to be around for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm the only one that I'm a little red hen or whatever. I'm the only one that if I want that, it's incumbent upon me to go out, gather the resources, get everything done, get all the ducks in the row. And women just don't seem to really care. They don't seem to take it very seriously. Um Marriage doesn't mean a damn thing to them. They're they like they they're they would like to do the cuckoldry thing. Like it just seems like I'm the only one that takes it seriously, and I'm the only one that actually, truly wants that for its own sake. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like I'm kind of the dupe here, or I would be the dupe, sort of the idiot. And no, like women, they're not willing to really. It just seems like they're just kind of lackadaisical about it, and uh, I don't know. It just doesn't give me a good feeling. It's like I don't know. Like it makes me not want to participate. Makes me just want to just stay out of the whole thing. Like the only right move is to not move at all. What? Sorry about that. I guess my brother misplaced some money or something. Just asking me if I took it. I'm like, no. Must have been a lot of money or something too, because he wouldn't wait. Normally he'd just wait. I don't even know where I was at there. He caught me, literally derailed me. Anyway.
I put on 40 plus pounds. And I, that's another sore spot for me, right? Like I've always been pretty fit. I went through a period of time where I wasn't fit.
And like what I was saying about her, like a woman not should feel guilty about going to work instead of, or to pay for daycare. Because the way I see it, honestly, I would legitimately work 3 jobs if I had to. I don't want, I'd rather have the mother of my kids is not going to be going to work while my kids are at some shitty daycare. That's not happening. It's not happening. I would rather just, you know, just forego the whole thing if that was going to be the case. I'm not trying to have somebody else raise my kids, really. I don't know. I've been thinking about it lately. Who knows? I mean, maybe things might change too. It's right now it's really volatile. It's like it's almost like a volatile time in the stock market. And it's like, shoot, should I invest or am I just going to get punished immediately and then suffer for that investment the rest of my life? I mean, there's definitely that distinct possibility.
Because I was dealing with, mental health issues, not full-fledged depression, but, kind of close to it. But let myself get out of weight or out of shape, put on a bunch of weight, stopped running for a period of time. And then, finally in 2021, got my act back together, got, to a qualifying time for Boston Marathon in 2024. It was in my best physical shape. I think my VO2 max was like 52 or 53. It was just like, I was doing great, lowest weight I've ever been. And now, like, I feel like I've reverted back to a place where I'm frankly just disgusted with how I look. Like it's hard to put into words, but like I'm no longer the person I used to be. And
and this is why exactly what she's talking about right here. This is why women aren't supposed to wait till they're 35. And we've always known this. This is why women are supposed to do it at 20 because they're not set in their ways. They've just become an adult. So they're transitioning from one person to the next. You know what I mean? Like they're changing into a new person. That's why you have the kids at 18 or 20. You dunce. Hello. Have you never thought about wake up, McFly? Anybody home, McFly? Like, for real though. This is why people are traditionally had kids young. This is why you're supposed to do it young. She's struggling with it. She can barely cope. Like, dude, we are learning lessons that we knew for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And we're not even learning those lessons. She isn't even aware of that, of what I'm talking about. She's never thought of that, oh, this is why I should, why they were telling me to do this at 20 or 18, because the transition would have been more acceptable. And, she would have, it would have been an easy transition and she would never have had to change into a new person. You know what I mean? Like it would have been one transition instead of two, child to adult, adult to mother. And she's struggling with that, and like, it seems obvious to me. As soon as she said that, I'm like, well, duh. People, they think it's crazy. All these, oh, that's a social construct. People think like the way we do things or the way that we did things, and they think that stuff is just like for good fun or it's just to piss them off. It's like, no, it's actually to make your life better. People like we have just really inculcated this transgressive attitude towards everything where it's like people just change things, throw shit out just to do that, just for the hell of it. And then later they're like, oh man, that's what that was for? Like, well, good luck, man. Like it's hard enough as it is. Now you're just loading a bunch of you are just encumbering yourself with a bunch of excess baggage that was unnecessary and you didn't have to bring.
There's there's like a mourning period that has to go through that. It's not selfish. It's not selfish at all. But there's like a mourning.
No, but it's not that it's selfish. It's like it was unnecessary, though. You didn't have to do this. It was a waste. You are going through this difficulty for nothing more than your own arrogance. Straight up. This is a result of her own arrogance. And I'm sure many away. And guess what? You know, if I have kids, I'm going to have to deal with the same damn thing. That's what I get. Well, wasn't much of my choice, but that's rightfully so. I feel like the last 10 years, I've been feeling myself getting deeper and deeper and like, where it's like, man, you're like, this is not going to be easy to, to change. Like, this is not going to be fun. It's going to be a bitch to change. I mean, it'll be worth it, but it's like the last 10 years, every year, it's like, I feel it. I feel myself becoming more decrepit, being more creaky, and like it's getting more difficult to change, to, you know, and it's something that I'm conscious of. And you know, but you couldn't tell these people. I mean, I was talking about marriage with women at like 19, you know, I always wanted that. But it was the women that they laughed me out of a room, you know? So it was like, really, it wasn't up to me. Women her age, millennial women, like mid-30s right now, bro, they were not having kids in their 20s. There wasn't, you couldn't pay them $1 million wouldn't be enough to get them to have a kid in their 20s. It's just that simple.
Period of, okay, I'm transforming into someone else. I have to let go of the expectations I have of the person I used to be, because it's just not within my control anymore. And so I'm doing what I can.
You have to content yourself. Okay, I have to do this. No point in getting upset about it. No point in beating myself up about it. Just get on with the getting on. Just do your job. Whatever it is you got, your routine, get to work. You know, get on with it.
Right, to run and stay in shape and kind of lose the weight. But, you know, since April, aside from the immediacy of giving birth, like I've lost 2 pounds. And so that's been incredibly frustrating. And I'm someone who's tracking my macros and eating a lot of protein and working out. I mean, I did.
You know, if I was going to, like, to be honest with you, Q, you say that, yeah, they cook millennials and Gen Z, bro. Me personally, I get the feeling that they cooked probably 4 generations in a row already. The millennials, Gen Z, and the next 2 are going to get effed. Pretty sure. Because it's like, not only did they shove all that crap down the millennials and the Gen Z, but they got rid of, like with the pandemic, they put in dating apps, commodified dating. Like I was saying earlier, basically dating apps and OnlyFans talked women into, like, why would you date guys? Why would you date guys for free when you can sell? Men have a need. You can sell them your favors and your content and the idea of you. You can sell it to them so that the government can get their cut and OnlyFans can get their cut. And it's like, anytime men need a woman's touch or need something from a woman, the government and OnlyFans, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Every time men need something sexually or need something romantically, somebody makes money. It's beautiful for these scumbags. Or the dating apps, same thing, bro. They talked women. They talked women into like really bad stuff. Not good for them, so that they could control the dating market, so that they could tax the dating market, you know, because there's a lot of favors, a lot of work and reciprocal needs being met and stuff. And that's all of the labor and stuff that people, men and women do for each other. It would be a lot of money if they put you know what I mean? If they charge, it would be a lot of money if the women charged money for that stuff. So they figured out a way so that women could charge money. They could put a price on that stuff. That way the government could tax it, and some piece of shit scumbag coder and his buddies could start a company and become billionaires from literally preying on their own countrymen, destroying the dating market. And that's why I say it's 4 generations. Bro, there is no dating market. Okay, they destroyed the Gen Z and the millennials in one way, brainwashed them and this and that. Bro, they're leaving nothing but cinders in these institutions now. What do you think the next 2 generations are going to do after the Gen Z? They don't got a snowball's chance in hell, dude. There's none of the old social standards and stuff that were like when I was a kid, where people got married and this and that. Bro, that stuff is gone, man. And the dating apps, they were supposed to replace it. No, they just went to garbage. They suck and nobody uses them anymore. So now they got rid of the old way because it was oppressive. And we'll replace it with this and this that are run by companies. So now we don't have the old way, and the new way failed magnificently. So now we're up shit creek without a paddle. We can't go back. We can't go forward. And everybody's got their thumb up their ass and a big grin on their face to pass the time of day with. Nobody knows that. They don't know head or tails. They don't know what to do. It's so twisted, and these people, man, they should get la guillotine for this. La guillotine for sure. I mean, it's like, bro, whatever happens to these politicians, Sam Altman and the like, bro, not even half as bad as it should be.
2 workouts today and I'll do 1 later tonight. You get really frustrated with that. So your physical body, for a lot of women, betrays you. Your hormones are all out of whack and you can't control those. If you're breastfeeding, there's extra hormones on top of that. So there's times where things just set me off and I get really emotional for no reason at all and I can't explain it. And you're in control of how you respond to things to some extent. But you can't really control your hormones. You don't really understand what they're doing to you. And there's no education in America for hormonal health for women at all. So, I can't even tell you what's happening in my body because I don't know. I'm actually thinking of going to get a function health panel. So if you've ever done one, share your thoughts in the comments to better understand my hormones and what's happening, because I know this is something I'm going to have to pay attention to, in the future and now and in the future. And so there's the hormone aspect, but then the big thing and the thing that I've had to grapple with is obviously sleep deprivation. No one prepares you for that. Everyone says, you're not going to have sleep when you have an infant. And no one actually.
What is she talking about? That's the one thing that they literally drill into all of our heads is that, man, you ain't going to sleep for 6 months. Get ready. I've heard that my whole life. How is it that blindsided her? Bro, seriously, how did that blindside her?
Sits you down and explains to you what that looks like. So from a mother's perspective, I can't speak to, fathers, and there's people who have different relationships and how they tackle things. But for me, I'm the primary caregiver. And part of that is because I'm also breastfeeding, right? So sure, could I wake my husband up at 2:00 in the morning and have.
That's what I'm saying though, Tablet. It's what is she talking about? She just such a, she's so into office culture. I guess she's not in it anymore. She works from home, but it's were you just so focused on your little microcosm that you just missed all this? Yeah, it does seem kind of outrageous. Where's she been at? And she's complaining about stuff. It's bro, you have AI. It's and even if it doesn't have the answers, it could at least point you in the right direction.
Have him bottle feed the baby. I could. He's also going to work for 10, 11 hours a day. So no, I'm not going to do that to him. I'm here and I have the ability to nap and rest when needed. So that's a sacrifice I need to make, right? But part of that, so as a mom, right, you're attuned to your baby in a way that men aren't. Like, the baby will cry and I will immediately snap away.
You know, it's funny. I remember my dad telling me about this. He's like, it's supernatural. He goes, your mom could be dead ass asleep in the middle of the bed. He goes, and if you stop breathing for a split second, he's like, you know, your mom would she would stop breathing, or you could tell that it didn't wake her up, but it alerted her. That's what my dad said. He's like I'm just what she's saying. He's like, somehow, if your breathing changed, the rhythm of your breathing, my dad was like, yeah, she would, kind of, movement in her bed or whatever while she's laying there, and would kind of rustle a little bit. And he said it was supernatural. It was crazy and kind of awe-inspiring in a way, that they're just so attuned that just the change in breathing tempo, it is kind of crazy.
My husband, not even phased by it, right? So just auditorily, your women are in tune with infants differently than men, so you're more likely going to wake up at any little thing that happens in the middle of the night. So your sleep is already gone. And just to back up a little bit too, throughout pregnancy, insomnia is a huge problem, at least it was for me. So even for the 9 months leading up to giving birth, I wasn't getting sleep at all. Insomnia, your bladder issues, there's times I had to get up and pee 3-4 times a night. It's just, part of the process of growing a tiny little human. So for the 9 months preceding giving birth, I wasn't getting good sleep, and now I had to.
How they feel this need to constantly remind you that there's a tiny little human, this is what it takes to grow a tiny little human. Are we all adults here? I don't know, you don't hear men saying, just fixing a big complex car, it's just what it takes to fix a big complex car. What are you going to do? Big complex car every 2 seconds. Why? It's like women, they constantly going out of their way, just like black people going out of their way to show how hard they've worked, how far they've gone, how much work they put in. It's like, bro, yeah, life's a bitch. Life is work. You don't see us rubbing shit in your face all the time. I'm just so tired of hearing about everybody else's problems are our problems as straight white men. Everybody else's problems are our problems, and we have to concern ourselves with them like they're our problems. But our problems, bro, we can get fucked when it comes to our problems.
Have a baby, and I'm definitely not getting good sleep. But getting up throughout the night to feed the baby, part of that, sure, you could make the argument that I could offset that with my husband, but the actual problem with that is that because I'm breastfeeding, I can't control when and how I replenish my milk supply, right? And so one of the things I've learned that I didn't know before is that women have the greatest milk supply early in the morning, so between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. And that's, I think, prolactin, I want to say, is the hormones.
It's kind of funny. My mom was telling me about this a while back. She's like, yeah, you worry about this stuff, and she's all worried about this. She doesn't realize, she's like, my body's so attuned to this and that. Yeah, no shit. That's how your body's going to be all the time. She's worrying about the non-issues. These things are going to work themselves out. She's talking about breastfeeding. Oh, I don't have enough milk and this and that. Bro, my mom, she told me, she's like, you worry about that, and then come to find out your body literally snaps to a routine. However many times you feed your kid every day, your body matches that schedule immediately. Bam. Like if you feed your kid 3 times a day, your body will have enough milk right on dime on time 3 times a day. That's what my mom said. She goes, it's crazy. It's like magic, or like how they're attuned to their kids sleeping. That's what my mom said. She's like, yo, it's no joke. She's like, and really, women's bodies, this is supposed to be foolproof. Women's bodies are set up so that they don't have to consciously really think or do anything. You know, it's not like they have to work at, you know, growing a child. You know, they don't have to like, you know, put the body parts in the right place. Like, no, they just live and it takes care of itself. Same thing after the kid's born. Same thing. It's too important and it's too delicate for human error. It's too sensitive. And that it's foolproof. It's idiot proof. Women aren't supposed to have to worry about it. They don't have to. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to just let their body do its thing. You know, but it's like this modern crap, man. It's ridiculous. But, you know, I just remember that was like the one takeaway, like my mom was saying, like, yeah, don't waste your time worrying about that kind. Like oh, am I going to have enough milk? Like, yo, it doesn't take long. My mom says like pretty much almost instantly your body like snaps too. You know, after like a week, it understands. And my mom was like, I had unlimited milk. And there's such a thing as a wet nurse in the past where a woman, you know, a nobility would get a wet nurse for their kids. Bro, a wet nurse, they could feed like 6 kids daily, you know, 3 meals a day. Women's bodies, just like cows, it will produce the milk however much milk they need. I mean, as long as they're eating well, I mean, otherwise it will leach the minerals and stuff out of their body and basically kill them. But, you know, could you imagine, like, it's set up so that even if a woman was like legitimately retarded, she would still be a fine mother, basically. Her body would take care of it. You know, she wouldn't have to think about, oh, am I going to have milk? Am I going to do blah, blah, blah. She wouldn't have to do that. Her body does it. You know, because it's got to be foolproof. It has to be. Because men don't know their elbow from their asshole when it comes to that stuff. And there's no guarantee that they're gonna even have a community. What if they're out in the middle of the woods and it's just 2 people, man and wife? What are they gonna do? Is the baby just gonna die? No. People do that stuff. People have done that mostly in history. And it works out fine. They got nobody, no community, no doctors, nothing. Kids are fine. So all this is just, it's much ado about nothing. It's like all of this, like seeking validation, or at least aggrandizement, you know, like grandstanding. Look at me. You know, it's so tough. You know, they have to kind of build the facade up so that they can milk it. It's just like these colored people in Britain with this nutcase that killed himself, just trying to build up as big of an edifice. They don't really give a shit about that dude. They don't care about that guy. They're just trying to get enough power to crush white people, basically, in those institutions like Cambridge. So they build that, you know, it's in their best interest to build up the biggest bonfire that they can build and get as much attention, bitch and moan as much and as long as they can. Same thing here, you know, this pity party stuff. It's negative. It's not going to help her. It's not going to help her kids. This stuff is counterproductive. As with most things in modernity, and as with most things that come out of female hive mind, as it were.
The hormone that impacts that. So that's when it's at its peak, and that's when your milk supply is you know, in high surplus. And so even if I wanted to sleep, even if someone could come and help and give me an opportunity to sleep, I probably couldn't sleep for more than 4 hours at a time, and I haven't since giving birth. Since before giving birth, I haven't slept for like an unbroken 4.
What do you want? What do you want? Like a cookie, a pat on the head? You know, like, I guess talking about it make her feel better, but it's like, you do realize no matter what, you just got to suck that shit up and move forward. You don't have a choice. Like, you can bitch and moan about it, but dollars to donuts, either the kid, you give the kid up, or you suck it up and get on with it. You know, all this complaining, no, it's a waste of your time, your energy, your thought power. This stuff, I don't know. It's just, people waste it just seems kind of crazy to me. What good is this doing? Women, the way women used to be, they just kind of rolled with the punches. Women today, they're like hypochondriacs, overthink everything. It's frustrating. They're very highly strung. Say the least.
Hour block at a time because it's just physically impossible. So what does this mean, and why is this a problem? If you're already experiencing postpartum depression on the hormonal side because your hormones are out of whack, if you feel like your identity is gone and you've lost a sense of yourself, your body has betrayed you, if you don't have he makes noises when he sleeps. But your body's betrayed you, and if you don't have a village to help you, this is another thing. Like, I don't have a single person where I can pick up the phone and be like, hey, can you come hold him for 2 hours so I can sleep? There are some people.
I was just saying, people, millions and millions, probably billions of people have raised kids without a community, have given birth by themselves alone while they were working in the fields. Like, and just, oh my God, you have the internet, you have all of this stuff. Somehow you are more worried, you're more freaked out than women have ever been in history. Like, women out in the middle of nowhere by themselves don't freak out like this. They take it one day at a time. And she's like working overtime to give herself anxiety. Bro, it's crazy. Like, it would be very difficult. It would be very hard for me. Like, I just couldn't do it with a woman like this. Not with this attitude, anyhow.
Who have that. There's some people who have daycares, babysitters, in-laws, all that. People have different types of villages, right? People have different types of support systems that can come and help them. I don't have anyone. I can't call my mom. She's thousands of miles away and be like, hey, can you please come and sit with him so I can go sleep? Like, I
just don't get it. What's up with the complaining? What are we supposed to do? What do you want us to do? Just listen, I guess? I mean, I get that. But it's like, what is your solution here, sweetheart? Where's the solution? How can we fix this? How can we solve this? Or you just need a shoulder to cry on? That's cool. Totally acceptable. I get that. But driving yourself up a wall over it, come on. Like, this is not it's not good. It's not wise. It's not. I guess that's just, like one of the places where I have a difficulty relating with women is, problem solving. We all know, that there's that, women are a little different when they have a problem or whatever, and it's hard for me to, I guess I just have to work on that, and be more patient, I guess. But I think maybe she's just really high strung. I don't think I wouldn't be able to do it that high strung. I don't think there's any way I could do it. Might end up, using a exercise band on her.
don't have that luxury. The only option that I have would be to find a random babysitter and have them come and watch him. And to be frank with you, like,
Well, why don't you just get the exercise band out then? There's you have no other choice, right? Here, she's up against the wall. There's nobody to help her. Well, time to bust out that exercise band. Like, like seriously, it's like almost like she's talking her, like, sort of, I don't know.
I'm not at a place where I'm comfortable doing that yet. In part because I joined all these like mom groups on Facebook to, again, like just try to understand how to be a mom and what's out there and activities and things. And so by doing that, I've kind of learned the babysitting scene here. And maybe I'm just, generalizing it a bit. But the vibe I've gotten is that there's all these babysitters who feel they're underpaid. They want to be paid $30, $35 an hour to come sit with your kid. And they're all TikTok addicted. So they want to get paid $30 to $35 an hour to not take care of your kid, like I can take care of my kid, while scrolling.
Legit sounds like a teacher. Doesn't it? Sounds just like a public school teacher. Verbatim.
The entire time on their phone. Like, I'm sorry, but
Sounds like a woman. Like modern corporate women. Like they want to get paid a shitload of money for scrolling TikTok. Must be nice.
I'm not going to do that. So even the quality of paid help that you could get isn't going to be very good unless you're willing to pay top dollar for it. So, and then it's just not worth it. So I think that's something that people don't talk about as well. So there's you have the physical side, and like your body is no longer yours. There's the identity crisis. You may or may not have a village, and then you're sleep deprived, right? And that's how this all culminates. I'm not saying this is what happened to Lindsay Clancy. Like I said, I'm not.
I just need to move on. She's not getting off of it. Like she's just sticking right with it. She's gonna finish her. Gonna do it whether I like it or you know whether I can handle it or not. I did set up some videos to play. I just say I didn't want to jump into them too quickly.
During that path, you lose everything. You lose the will to live. If you know who you are, and you are true to yourself, and you know you're only trying to do the right thing, you can make it through. And I think that quiet knowing is actually the observation about Mr. Arday. Because if you know who you are, and you are actually a fraud, then you simply can't carry on. Unlike the least, I don't celebrate the deaths of my political opponents.
Yeah, me neither. That's pretty disgusting how they do that.
So spare me the lectures. And by the way, none of the reactions from them now. You have no evil woman. Actually, seriously evil woman. And her reaction to this tragedy shows why she should have no place in our public, no place in our country. Watch.
Hell yeah. Get him, Wooten. Get him, Dan. Smeared him, huh? Wow. Oh. Bro, run that bitch out of Britain on rails, man. Get her ass out of there, bro. What the hell is this eggplant bitch doing in England? Talking like that. Talking like those journalists aren't responsible for this guy's death. He killed himself. Killed himself because he couldn't bear the shame that he had brought upon himself and his family, his kids, his reputation. The guy was a total fraud. Lied about anything and everything. He was, you know, he couldn't speak for the first 12 years of his life. Then he did 10 hours of speech class every day. Did 30 marathons and 35 with a broken leg. Like it's, you know, this is such a cynical. This is so cynical. It's a pure power play. The bigger they make this, the more they bitch, the bigger tantrum they throw, they feel the more political power they will get from this, the more extractive, the more they get to extract. Remember George Floyd and forget what Black Lives Matter? Bro, they changed British society with that. And they're getting their licks in, and they're hoping that if they make a big enough stink, they can get their way. They can get more goodies. They can get things changed to make and they're trying to make it so that they're trying to punish these people for uncovering these frauds so that they won't dare do it again. So that they can be fraudulent, criminal people to like the day is long and the media and the academia won't dare bring it out because they'll be afraid of a backlash. That's what they're doing. That's legitimately what they're doing. And it's cynical and it's disgusting, totally unscrupulous, shameless. They do it here too. Absolutely. Like they do it here too. And it's not because they can't, it's just a naked power play. And we're fools if we just keep letting them buffalo us like this.
Okay, so you notice what she's doing? She's actually inciting violence, and this is what's going on with this from that Google. There are people making what looks like hit lists of journalists who worked on the Jason Arday saying these people are insane. It is called media scrutiny. However annoying journalists can be, they were just
doing their job. This guy is the one that brought all that stuff on him. They're doing their duty, what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to make sure that, the people that they hire are competent and aren't lying. And they tried to cover up and keep this from getting out. And then they just kept finding more lies. Like, they're not wolves at all. At all. But yeah, they're absolutely trying to discourage this so that they can, it's like when you ever see a black person do something that in front of a cop or do something that a cop starts arresting them for, and then they just start freaking out there. And all that is trying to condition people to just let it go. Oh, I made a mistake. But if I, like the women, if I bitch and moan and throw a big enough tantrum, I can get away with what I'm doing. And it's just going to get worse and worse until you stop that shit and just tough love. Hey, you made your bed, you get to lay in it. Stick it to them a couple good times. They'll stop this shit. They've only started doing this since the Black Lives Matter. We let them burn our cities down. Bro, they're chomping at the bit for another one of those. They would love to go on a looting spree for a month.
Also seeing the worst people of British society now completely rewrite the Jason Arday story, saying there was no evidence of any plagiarism, like looking around the gun, no evidence of him doing anything.
It's really like what I'm playing is really bad. That's weird. Rookie Monster. Oh yeah. No, it's live. It's definitely live. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I video seems fine for me. It sucks. I mean, if it's still, hopefully it's better. But if not,
This was simply.
Did you see that lady? Man, that was unhinged, dude. That was unhinged. What a guest, too. A guest in that country. Is that these people think that that's acceptable behavior? But 30 years ago, these people would have never done this. They used to be very respectful.
A racist witch hunt, she says.
It is a tragedy. He didn't pass away though. He killed himself. He killed himself. It is a tragedy, but it's like it's nobody's fault except his. Well, lynch mob, eh? Wow. Bro, why is it the minorities? Bro, they will tell themselves the biggest whoppers. Remember that Carmelo Anthony? The people out front of the court? Dude. the stuff they were saying was it was absurd, ridiculous. It's also tiresome. It is.
Someone in the light of politics is killed, is assassinated, I mean, there actually is someone to blame.
Literally bludgeoned to death in their kitchen with a claw hammer. 20 blows to the head that woman had. That murderer crossed the country, broke into her house or got into her house and beat her to death with a ball peen hammer. 20 blows to the skull. And the left, they don't even talk about it, you know?
From the left takes their own life, they say that those on the right have blood on their hands.
For real.
So I thought long and hard about the story over. You can imagine I have very conflicting views on the whole thing. But who did I want to hear from? Well, I wanted to hear from the woman who has actually been hunted down more, been subjected to more of a mainstream media witch hunt than anyone in modern history. I wanted to hear from her. I wanted to hear from Katie Hopkins on the day. Katie,
they really have gone after this woman too. She's banned from Australia. I mean, they hate her guts. She had to leave the UK. You know, she like toured America for like a while. But oh man, she's a comedian. She's funny as hell too. But dude, they have just, you know, she doesn't see her husband and her kids because they have literally like exiled her, ran her out of the country. Like, no joke.
Which is dead or trained once more. She then made this incredibly important and thoughtful video. Watch carefully. And it is absolutely true that the media pile can be intense and push you to the very limits of yourself. And I think about so many times in my life where it was being fired from.
Oh, you can't hear the audio? Really? Hang on. Let me see here. Really? That's weird. Well, let me try a different source right quick. 1 second. That's weird. I mean, looked at the audio on my side. It says it's fine. Try a different one though.
The tweets of the show that I loved. Tweeted a video reporting that everybody there cheered.
Switch the scene right quick.
When news of my
about that?
was announced, which was not true, but or when I was collapsed on the streets of South Africa with dislocated arms, was given ketamine by the ambulance crews, and the Daily Mirror ran with the headline, Hopkins collapses from ketamine overdose, or being awarded the Cunt Award in front of 22 million people.
And the whole world appearing to laugh at you because you were duped and made to look like a complete fool, or a couple of jihadis coming to my house to chop my head off, or being fired from every job I had, or losing my home in a court battle because libel laws are now lower than my labia. I mean, any...
Let me see her labia. Huh, she makes those jokes a lot. Let me see if I can fix it right quick. It might be the bit rate.
Any of the international level humiliations where the whole world was laughing at me, called names, a monster, people believing that you're the worst person on the face of the planet.
But Katie is very clear, and it's a lesson I've learned too. There is no good wanting sympathy. All of us have put ourselves out there, right? Watch.
If you put yourself out there, you put yourself in the public eye. Not everyone's going to like what you do or what you say or what they believe to be true about you. And I say tough shit. You put yourself out there, you have to suck it up. You want plaudits, or you want to be lauded as the first young this or that, or be a professor. That will come with scrutiny. And you have to own all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And in my case, there's been a lot of ugly. And the second thing, and probably the most pertinent, is nothing to do with me per se, which is the only way you survive 25 years of being ritually humiliated at an international level is by knowing who you are. So for all the times I was called a drug addict or a monster.
She's got, she has I think she has seizures. So she struggled with that and stuff. She's been through a lot. She's a comedian, but I think that's where she's talking about with the drugs. She's takes stuff for seizures, I think.
Or was persecuted or lost my homes, my jobs, wasn't allowed to even speak in my own country. For all those times, the only thing I had was knowing who I am. And knowing I was none of the things people said I was. I was just this, an ordinary wife, mum, former army officer who wants to stand up for ordinary people who don't have a voice. And I don't ask to be agreed with, I don't ask to be liked. And I agree you have to suck it up when it doesn't go your way.
And Katie was building to a fundamental point. Some people say this is insensitive, but actually, it's the truth. There was a fundamental difference between Katie Hopkins and Jason Arday. New explosive takes on the culture war and politics every single day. Yes, the ones the Assembly was in the middle of that witch hunt with me, Lawrence Fox, has made a very good point about this. Writing, I know exactly what it's like to have your career ended overnight. I know exactly what it's like to be at the centre of a targeted and brutal onslaught designed to destroy one's life. I know exactly what it's like to feel like there's no reason to carry on. I've been there. The very people who are the most vocal and morally virtuous in their horror about this entirely avoidable tragedy were the ones who continue to dance loudest on my grave. This awful event must be a wake-up call for any right-thinking person. Diversity kills, critical race theory kills, wokeism kills. We must reject this madness once and for all. But instead, what we have seen happen, and I am going to call this out now, is total 180s. Okay, because this actually wasn't a right or left wing story. Can I just get real about this for a second? We love liars and fantasists, right? Like, at the moment, do you see all of the coverage around Katie Price keeping James O'Brien honest? And
no, I gotta say, this James O'Brien guy, he is such a scumbag. He pretends to be this human, like a great man, like a philanthropist, that he cares about humanity. It's so fake. And it's, I'm gonna see if I can find something.
James O'Brien. So first to James O'Brien, Paul Friend posting, he thought I was someone who'd stick up for him. Instead, James O'Brien explained why he threw Cambridge professor Jason Arday under the bus because he'd been mugged off. Listen to the weasel reverse ferreting Monday. And Sandra Parker, who's a brilliant source on X, she basically spends her life just keeping James O'Brien honest, wrote, as James O'Brien gears up to blame the right-wing media for Jason Arday's tragic death and attempt to disassociate himself from any blame, remember that this is what he was openly saying on LBC only a week ago. On Tuesday, the 11th of August, as Nick Ferrari handed over to James O'Brien joked with LBC listeners about how Jason Arday had played him like a fiddle in his Full Disclosure podcast. James O'Brien is going to pretend he didn't.
For years,
do that.
anyone
Don't
climbing Mount
listen.
Everest by...
Luckily, we've got all those receipts. Watch.
But it's more the personal contact that I've had with him subsequently that makes me feel like a mug. The fact that he thought I was someone that he might be able to persuade to stick up for him when he knew that he'd done wrong.
Okay, so let's just get this right. Arday was in contact with James O'Brien after the scandal broke, and James O'Brien told him to do one. Told him to piss off. You're not going to treat me like a mug anymore. That's fine, but that is what happened. Yet this morning, did James O'Brien have any reference to any of that? No. He totally ignored the way he personally turned on Arday. Watch.
That we keep coming back to, and then it wouldn't have happened to a white. It just wouldn't have happened to a white professor.
Oh,
and
really?
People can do with that.
Really?
Well, you can disagree with me if you want, Ben, but I don't think that anybody who really understands
pompous ass
politics, let alone racial politics, can argue with that. You could see.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
I thought you would. I just didn't want to take that for granted. No way that this would have happened if it was I mean, thinking of white people in the public eye who have been found to have plagiarized or to have embellished their CVs or to have... and of course, he hasn't been found to have plagiarized, and that's why the story wouldn't go away. I think that must be where the gleefulness comes from. I don't know. I don't see quite where the gleefulness would come from unless somewhere deep inside you felt that black people had no business being in those spaces.
Wow.
Then in the ultimate diversionary technique,
douchebag.
he compared Jason Arday to Meghan Markle.
And that is why the Meghan Markle parallel is the one that is interesting, or a very interesting one. So it's utterly unhinged hatred directed at someone. Why? Because she has the audacity as a woman of color to influence.
Woman of color? Bro, she is no woman of color. Come on, man. She's a princess, bro. The Duke of the Duchess of what is it? It's not York, it's the other one. The Duchess of I forget what it is. It's the other one though. Doesn't come to mind, but it's well known. But it's like, yeah, that she's not colored. Come on now.
The highest
It's like saying
bastion.
Barack Obama is colored. Come on. That guy is such a white elite. He's literally cut from the same cloth as George Bush, raised by the same people, brought up through the same institutions. He was literally an establishment stooge, like George H.W. Bush, George Bush, every president. They all come from the same, they cut from the same cloth. They all go to like Skull and Bones. I mean, and Barack Obama, he's cousins with like Hillary Clinton and George Bush. You're going to tell me that guy's not an American elite. Like, he's an outsider. Okay, sure.
Of white privilege, the actual royal family. And I think a Cambridge professorship. You know, historically, this is a university where you've still got people on the payroll defending slavery, practically. How dare a black man? And then, of course, the two things becoming true at the same time kicks in again, which is that when they started searching, they found stuff that needed to be accounted for.
Now, James O'Brien, you're speaking rubbish, okay? You're absolutely speaking rubbish. We all know that. We all see you. And we all see the fact that in his hour of need, you were not there for Jason Arday. I'm not blaming you for that, but don't cry racism now. And the other organisation that I want to specifically call out is Channel 4 News. Its race-baiting anchor, Christian Guru Murthy, posted this. The disproportionate and bullying commentary and coverage of Jason Arday's mistakes has been obviously dangerous for days. Yes, it was a legitimate story and in various ways a troubling one, but the relentless coverage, the vitriol...
I'm going to round out with this, but I caught some random mountain climbing video. Man, this...
For years, anyone...
Really good. Like, and now I would like to climb Mount Everest. Like, I think I'm gonna climb Mount Everest one day.
Climbing Mount Everest by its southern route past the same strange sight. About 100 meters above the highest camp on the mountain, a woman sat in the snow, leaning back against her pack. Her eyes were open, her hair moved in the wind. From a distance, climbers sometimes mistook her for a resting figure, or even for a tent.
Man, that really, I mean, it gets my heart rate up.
Until they got close enough to understand what they were really looking at. She had been there since 1979. The cold and the dry wind preserved her where she sat. And for years, she was one of the landmarks climbers used to mark their progress on the southern route. Going up, they passed her. Coming down, they passed her again. Her name was Hannelore Schmatz, and the strange thing about her death is that she did not die on the way up. She reached the summit. She stood on top of the world, the fourth woman in history to do it. She had already succeeded. What killed her was a decision made on the way down. A decision she made against the advice of the people who knew the mountain best. The Sherpas guiding her descent. To understand what happened on Everest, you have to understand that Hannelore Schmatz was not a tourist who wandered too high. She was a serious, accomplished climber. Born in Germany in 1940, she married Gerhard Schmatz in 1962. Gerhard was a passionate mountaineer, and he introduced his wife to the high peaks. It became the center of their life together. Between the early 1970s and the end of the decade, the couple made it almost an annual tradition to climb one of the world's great mountains. Her climbing started in the Alps, where she learned the craft before the couple's ambitions outgrew Europe. They went to the Andes, climbing high and remote peaks in South America. For the Schmatzes, this wasn't a hobby they fit around their lives. It was most of their life, and it kept pulling them toward bigger mountains. And the objectives kept getting bigger. In 1973, they climbed Manaslu.
You know, I didn't realize, but Everest was only the first time it was summited was in the 50s. I had no idea that it was, you know, that recent. Like, she died in 79. The first person to get to the peak had only done it like 25 years before, in the 50s. It's crazy.
The eighth highest.
Notice she was born in 1942 in Germany. You know, she was like a Nazi baby, you know.
Mountain in the world, an 8,000er with a fearsome reputation for avalanche danger. In 1975, Hannelore reached the summit of Tirich Mir, the highest peak in the Hindu Kush, becoming the first German woman to climb a mountain over 7,000 meters, a genuine milestone for a German mountaineer of her generation. In 1977, the couple summited Lhotse, the fourth highest mountain on Earth, which sits directly beside Everest and shares part of its route. Standing on Lhotse,
wow.
She would have looked across at Everest itself, the one summit that still lay ahead. By the time she set her sights on Everest, Hannelore Schmatz had spent years at extreme altitude. She knew what the death zone felt like. She knew the discipline a big mountain demands. She was, by the standards of her era, exactly the kind of person who should have been able to climb Everest and walk away. That's what makes her story worth telling. This isn't a cautionary tale about someone unprepared or reckless. It's about someone capable. Experience protects you on a mountain like Everest, right up until it doesn't. And at that altitude, there's always a point where it stops being enough. Hannelore also handled much of the planning for the expedition. Her husband later wrote that she was extraordinarily gifted at organizing and moving the enormous quantity of supplies a Himalayan expedition requires. She wasn't a passenger on this climb. In many ways, she helped make it possible. In the autumn of 1979, the Schmatzes returned to Nepal to attempt Everest by the Southeast Ridge, the classic route first climbed by Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay in 1953. Gerhard Schmatz led the expedition. At 50 years old, he was aiming to become the oldest person to summit Everest at that time, a record he would in fact achieve. The team was international and experienced. 8 climbers in all, including a New Zealander, a Swiss climber, several Germans, and 1 American. They were supported by 5 Nepalese Sherpas, the high-altitude experts whose knowledge and labor make climbs like this possible. The American was Ray Janae, and he deserves a moment of his own because his fate and Hannelore's are tied together. Janae was a legend in Alaska, famous for his many climbs of Denali, including a place on the first ever winter ascent of that brutal peak. He was tough, charismatic, and deeply experienced in cold, high places. If anyone on the team seemed built to survive a hard day on Everest, it was him. The expedition climbed in a lean, fast style. They used supplemental oxygen from the South Col upward, the standard approach for the final push into the death zone. Everything was geared toward an efficient summit attempt. But the timing carried risk.
They call it the death zone because at that level of altitude, there's so little oxygen. I think there's only 30%. of the normal oxygen up there, your body starts shutting down slowly. So once you get into that death zone, you know, you're on a timer. You got to get up there and get down out of that death zone before your body starts breaking down. You know, your thinking gets foggy. I mean, it's no joke, you know, and it's not, you're only halfway when you summit it. When you get to the top, you still got to come. Most people die coming down. They don't die on the way up. They die after they stand on the tallest point of the world. The mountain takes their ass out on the way down.
This was a post-monsoon autumn climb, and the weather in that season can turn quickly and violently. As the summit push approached, the team watched the sky with growing unease. The conditions were unstable. Snow fell, then cleared, the wind picked up, and the temperature began to drop. Gerhard Schmatz and the first group went up on October 1st. They left the South Col before 6 in the morning, reached the summit in the early afternoon, and made it back down to the high camp by evening, after dark but safe. Gerhard had his record, and more importantly, his group had returned. The second group would go the next day, and that group included his wife. On October 2nd, 1979, the second team set out for the top. With them was Hannelore Schmatz, climbing alongside Ray Janae and their Sherpa support. The climbing was slow. The snow was deep and soft, the kind that drains you with every step. As the hours passed, it became clear they were falling behind schedule. On Everest, falling behind is dangerous in itself because every extra hour high on the mountain burns oxygen in daylight you can't get back. They reached the summit late, around 6 in the evening. For Hannelore Schmatz, it was the achievement of a lifetime. She became the 4th woman ever to stand on the highest point on the planet, and the first German woman to do it.
4th woman
After years
ever.
of climbing,
That's
after
crazy.
all that preparation,
And
she
killed
had made it. But 6 in the evening was far too late to be standing on the summit. The sun was going down, and everything below them still had to be descended in failing light and dropping temperatures by people who had already been at extreme altitude for too long. It's a hard thing to picture from sea level. The summit is only the halfway point. The descent is where most people die on Everest, and this descent would happen partly in the dark, through the death zone. The death zone is what climbers call the altitude above roughly 8,000 meters. The air there holds about a third of the oxygen you'd get at sea level, and the body can't last long in it. It starts to shut down. Muscles weaken, thinking slows, and judgment fades, usually without the climber noticing it happening. Hannelore Schmatz had stood on the summit. Now she had to get back down through all of that, tired, cold, and running short on the daylight she desperately needed. As the group descended below the summit, the situation deteriorated. Ray Janae's oxygen ran out. For a climber already exhausted in the death zone, in the cold, losing supplemental oxygen is a severe blow. Janae was spent. He decided he could not continue down to the safety of the camp that night. He wanted to stop, to bivouac,
Crazy.
to make a rough
Crazy.
shelter in the snow and wait until morning. This is the decision the whole story turns on, and it's where the Sherpas spoke up. The Sherpas guiding the descent urged them not to stop. By the accounts that have come down to us, they warned the climbers plainly.
How do you countermand the Sherpas? Like, what? That's crazy. Like, if that guy tells you no, it's like, yeah, I guess this isn't a good place. Like, that guy's telling you, don't do this. Don't do this. It's not smart. It's like a sure thing. Oh, no, we'll be fine. What? Okay.
You cannot spend the night here. Stopping in the open in the death zone, in those temperatures, was extraordinarily dangerous. The right move, the survivable move, was to keep pushing down to the South Col, where there was shelter and cached oxygen. But Janae refused to go on, and Hannelore Schmatz, exhausted herself, chose to stay with him. Together they dug a poor shelter in the deep snow, high on the mountain, somewhere around 8,400 meters, and prepared to wait out the night. The simple version of this story, that she ignored the Sherpas and died.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's like, yo, this ain't like, this ain't a hotel. This ain't some resort. Yo, you're supposed to get up there, summit, and get down. Like, if you got to roll down the damn thing, like, bro, nothing could keep me from getting off the top of that mountain. Anyhow.
Is true but incomplete. It was Janae who pushed to stop. Hannelore stayed with a struggling teammate rather than leave him, which is understandable enough.
I don't know about
And the
that.
altitude that made stopping so deadly was the same altitude quietly removing their ability to see that. Climbers describe a fog at that height, where a catastrophic choice and a sensible one feel identical. So when we say she ignored the Sherpas, we should picture not a stubborn climber waving off good advice, but an exhausted, oxygen-starved
Chile?
human being near the limit of what a body can endure, no longer able to weigh the warning properly. The Sherpas could see the danger clearly. That clarity is exactly what the death zone had taken from their clients. One
That's
of the
the thing is, you're supposed to know that. You know, before you go, you're supposed to know there's a chance that when I get up there, I get loopy and I'm not thinking right. And hey, if the guys that are in charge that do this for a living are telling you, I wouldn't do this if I was you. No, like that's crazy to me. I don't know. It's just I don't get it. Maybe, you know, maybe I wouldn't unless I was there, but I don't know. Just feel maybe the experience they have worked against them. They're just thinking, oh no, I'll be fine. You know, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? Like, whereas I would be kind of a greenhorn, and I would like, no way that I would like take my own advice. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Sherpas, meanwhile, had continued down to retrieve cached oxygen and made it to the South Col late that night. The others remained higher up. Janae, Hannelore, and at least one Sherpa stayed together in the makeshift bivouac,
And they got a
exposed
Sherpa to
as
stay
the night
too.
closed in and the temperature kept falling. The night in the death zone was as brutal as the Sherpas had feared. High winds tore at the shelter. The cold was extreme. There was no real protection up there, just sleeping bags and a shallow hollow scraped into the snow, thousands of meters above the nearest safety. The body cannot warm itself in those conditions. It can only lose heat hour after hour. Ray Janae did not survive the night. The legendary Alaskan climber, who had conquered Denali in winter, died of hypothermia in the open, high on Everest. His body was later lost to the snow and was never recovered. Hannelore Schmatz lived through the night. So did the Sherpa who stayed with her. When morning came, the two of them began to move again, descending toward the South Col, toward the camp, toward survival. They were close, agonizingly close. The high camp was only about 100 meters below them in altitude, the final stretch of a descent she had nearly completed.
Basically, they were within sight of the camp. That's like she died within sight. 100 yards or 100 meters or whatever above where they were getting. So it like really wasn't that far.
And then Hannelore stopped.
Creepy.
The exhaustion was simply too much. A night in the death zone, on top of a late summit and a long, draining climb, had taken everything she had.
You know, I don't know. It just seems weird to me because, you know, the human body, it's supposed to naturally recognize danger. And it's supposed to sort of call upon reserves that you didn't know you had. You know what I mean? And maybe maybe, you know, that has a lot to do with IQ or what, like, but in that situation, I would, you know, I would expect it's do or die. Like, I feel like you would find that energy somewhere. You would find the grit to get through that. It's like that or die. And I don't know. I just feel like the human body and our instincts are very powerful if you'll just sort of embrace them more or less. They will give you, I mean, you can summon superhuman strength and stuff. I mean, it's documented. You know, at the risk of like damaging, like, you know, your muscles are way stronger than you realize. They're strong enough to rip themselves clean off of your bone, off of the ligaments. And that's why you're not able to tap into your body's full muscle power. But if you're, you know, trapped or something is happening where you need to put, like, I remember reading about a guy who was sliding down like in like a Wile E. Coyote, Utah, Monument Valley, but he was a rock climber and he was sliding down a flat, like way up, flat rock face because of like a 500-pound like Wile E. Coyote flat rock landed on him, pinned him on this kind of a cliff that slanted down, and he slid all the way down, and then as his head like started going over the edge, threw like this 500 or 600 pound rock off of his chest and stuff, and just tore his chest all to hell. But he survived. The dude survived to like live another day. You know, it's either that or die. And okay, you know, maybe you know, you can't use you got a bum arm the rest of your life. Well, you know, that's better than, you know, crashing to your death like Wile E. Coyote.
She sat down in the snow and leaned back against her backpack to rest. According to the
That is
accounts
so
that survive, she murmured the same word over and over.
Wassa.
Water.
Wassa.
Water. She did not get up again. So close to the camp she had been fighting to reach, Hannelore Schmatz died where she sat. She was 39 years old, and she became the first woman and the first German citizen to die on the upper slopes of Mount Everest. Of the 8 climbers and 5 Sherpas on that expedition, all of them made it home except 2, Ray Genet and Hannelore Schmatz, the 2 who stopped. It would be wrong to tell this story as if Hannelore was the only one who paid for that night in the death zone. The Sherpa who stayed with her to the end, who refused to leave her even as she failed, survived the descent, but at a terrible cost. He suffered severe frostbite from the hours spent high on the mountain. He lost most of his fingers and most of his toes. He carried the physical price of that night for the rest of his life. It's worth slowing down on that. The Sherpas had given the warning because they understood the danger better than anyone. And when the warning went unheeded, they were the ones who stayed behind and tried to help, and who carried the injuries afterward. In a lot of Everest stories, the Sherpas are background figures. Here they were the ones who saw clearly and acted with the most courage. The mountain wasn't finished collecting its toll either. In 1984, 5 years after her death, a Nepalese police expedition attempted to recover Hannelore Schmatz's body from the mountain. During that effort, 2 more people died. A police inspector named Yogendra Bahadur Thap.
She claimed not only that guy, the American guy, but 2 other people died because of them taking that stop, because they were trying to recover her body and ended up dying. Like, that's crazy. Like, years later, they died. Crazy.
And a Sherpa guide named Ong Dorji, who fell to their deaths high on the mountain. So the count of lives connected to that single decision to stop kept climbing. Genet, Hannelore, and then 2 more who died simply trying to bring her home. For years after her death, Hannelore Schmatz remained on Everest, in plain sight. The extreme cold and the dry, ceaseless wind preserved her. She stayed frozen in the position she had died in, seated, leaning against her pack, her eyes open, her hair stirring in the wind. She was only about 100 meters above the high camp, right alongside the route, which meant that climbers attempting the southern approach in the years that followed had to pass her. She became a landmark and a warning. The British mountaineer Chris Bonington, one of the most famous climbers of his generation, spotted her from a distance in the mid-1980s, and at first mistook her for a tent before he understood what he was seeing. The Norwegian expedition leader Arne Næss described
You know, and what really, these kind of things really creep me out. And I think what it is it was one little bitty decision. Such a small decision costs so much. And I guess that kind of scares me, the idea that, you know, one decision made in the moment, you know, could end up costing you your life 10 minutes later, whatever, you know. And it's like, that really freaks, like, when I watch this, I mean, my heart was racing. It was really weird. Like, it just creeped me out, something awful. And I think it has something to do with like these little split-second decisions, or little, seem what, like, minor details, minor decisions. They have these huge consequences, and it just, whoo, something serious. Oh, no, that's crazy. Driving, it held up a car. Damn. Yeah, and I was under the impression that Sherpas didn't stay either. Like, they told you, you know, hey, you're gonna die, or we got to go, and it's up to you. If you don't go, you don't go. That's it. And it's not like those Sherpas come from like 2,000 years of climbing. The first people that ever got up the top of Everest were just 25 years before that. So I don't know. I think I would like to do that though, honestly. Like, I don't know why. I guess it's, uh, I don't know. I kind of have a urge to do those dangerous things, like to attempt things that could kill me, but and that require discipline and sheer willpower, and I something about that really intrigues me. And it's like, that is as good a way to go as any I know of. I mean, it's the sweet death, the sweet sleep. You die so peacefully. You know, we all got to die, and yeah, like I kind of want to pick. Like, I don't know what it is, but I kind of like want. I don't know. It's a weird feeling, but I don't know. For some reason, I want to sort of roll, I guess. At least to the degree, like, going to climb Everest, and then if it kills me, it's like, at least I took that calculated risk and it was worth it. Like, there are, that's actually a pretty good way to go. If you gotta, I mean, we all gotta go. Would be a pretty legit way to go. At least it wasn't on fucking operating table in a hospital while you're getting like a nose job or some shit. Bro, I would rather drown or be burned alive than to die on the operating table. Anywho, that's it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Um, yeah, I'm like I said, I've been trying different stuff. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. We got into some different stuff. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good evening, good night, enjoy your morning, what have you. Good night, Mackenzie.